And we're back here at the Deadlock Fight Night number 23, presented by Intel, as we finally make our way into our EU money match with OneWin taking on Virtus.pro in a best of 3 to see who can be crowned the best team in EU, and of course take home the $100,000. Wow, I'm getting really ahead of myself there. $1,000 for themselves. Just got still joined by Dan, and we got to see VP in particular. They drafted for that late game play up against Paravision. They drive the game out long enough for it to become effective, and then they did wipe the floor with Paravision, but they have struggled so many weeks now to take down OneWin. Will this finally be the week?
Will this be the week? I mean, it's so possible. A new patch. Last time there was a new patch, VP obviously struggled a bit, but at the same time, I mean, we're not having such a significant change of 4 lanes to 3, and I feel like this patch helps VP. Like, it helps their style of play. So we'll have to actually see how things actually pan out with OneWin, what adaptations they may have, because they got nerfed pretty hard. They were all about leveraging the early game heroes and the playmakers, and those guys got the hardest nerf bats to the face on this go of the patch.
Well, you know what? We can't do this show alone. I have to reluctantly bring in the most handsome man on DFN, which brings me into the 5th most handsome man on DFN. We got Jake coming in here to break things down. Jake, you got to see the first match. What was your quick take on how things went down?
Yeah, I mean, it's just classic Virtus.pro in form, you know, showing what their potential is as a team as they look to regroup and go up for another shot against OneWin, who have been pretty undeniably dominant in EU right now. I mean, 4 in a row wins here on DFN. At this point, you've got to consider them the heavy favorite, but VP look as good as ever.
Yeah, looking good as ever. And we did get to see the VP roster earlier on. So why don't we take a look here at the OneWin roster, if you guys might have forgotten about who is actually on this team. ABL, for me, definitely been one of the stars. But honestly, Dan, overseas, I think he's the real MVP of the team, man. He is like silently and sometimes not so silently being such a big playmaker for this roster.
Yeah. Overseas has been really interesting because, I mean, 2 super high impact heroes that you get to see from overseas, the Bebop or the Grey Talon, and you can't ban them both, ladies and gents. And so, you know, we usually get to see overseas on one of the 2, and they have such high impact in the early game, the mid game, the late game. So it's been really interesting to see overseas be so important for the team, where you also see players like ABL being a really important star and carry for the team, and then Empty Dreams, who also has really big performances on carry roles. So it's really hard with this roster, because anywhere you look, you're going to be running into quality, and I think that's the reason why we're seeing them be able to take these titles back to back. And it's a team that's very hard to win a draft against.
Yeah, and Jake, I mean, getting to talk about OneWin here, if we talk about a star-studded lineup, I feel like every single player on this roster has had their own moment, though I think seeing Zanya playing Lash, most likely, hopefully, for ZP's sanity, not going to be happening here in this best of 3.
Yeah, it seems like teams have strayed away from it a little bit, although not in the last series, so you never know. I do think that the strength of OneWin team is really, almost the way that a Deadlock team needs to be built, which is that anybody can have a pop-off game and can turn into the carry for that game. It's kind of the nature of the game. You don't really have the hard carry roles where you do in other MOBAs. The farm distribution is not as natural to have a 1 through 6 prio, and so I think you kind of need a lot of players who can all whoever's having that good start, whoever's finding those early kills, and whoever comes out alive after a big early team fight with a lead, you need them to be that player who can take that opportunity and turn it into a really dominant spot in the game. And I think that's what OneWin team is. Anybody on this roster could have a good early game and could become that late game carry threat. And so they're a very difficult team to play against, because there's not just one guy you can focus and keep down. They kind of stay away from that type of a play style, and I think that makes them particularly difficult to counter, like you were mentioning, Dan, in the draft.
Well, one advantage, Dan, going into this for VP is that Pocket has had nerfs, Calico has had nerfs, and those have been 2 heroes that OneWin have heavily relied on for their success these last 4 weeks of time. So if any moment is perfect for Virtus.pro to finally take back the title, take back that belt, it's got to be this week.
Ban the Geist. Ban the Geist would be just, I don't know if that's is that a new cool thing that you could do? I feel like maybe it is, based on everything you guys have been saying that you've been seeing in the new patch, and based on VP's preferences, it might not be a terrible ban to go for, because Geist is also one of those heroes that also, okay, it's gonna be Sinclair, cool. So it's one of those heroes, to finish my point, that kind of ties together the roster because it performs multiple functions, but most importantly is a high damage dealing, a tanky hero.
Sinclair is actually kind of an interesting ban for me for one win team, because I feel like they're the team that uses a lot of Sinclair. I don't see VP pick it all that often. I mean, I'm sure that they could pilot it, but still surprised with like Holiday available. I'd expect maybe that's direction VP go. And yeah, they are going to take it first. So one win team, let's see what the response is. Do they want to lock up the Paradox? Are they worried about, the double initiator threat that VP could snatch that away in the next two?
It's the trickiness of, do you take Paradox Mirage or do you take like Paradox? I mean, I'm assuming Paradox Mirage has to be what they go for here, but then you leave Mo open to be taken away by VP.
Yeah.
And I feel like Mo's still going to be one of those heroes they heavily want to rely on for this one-win roster.
Turn to Paradox for help.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking the Mo is like a nice combo with Holiday. It's also like a good counter against Holiday. So you probably do want to secure it if you're VP. You can lasso people in, pull them in for the combo, or vice versa. Either one can be the setup skill. But then also against the enemy Holiday, when she's trying to like come in, grab a lasso, and get out, I feel like that combo can be such a problem for that playstyle conceptually for Holiday that I would like to see it. Although first two is extremely early. The Geist over the Mirage, though, is quite a statement pick from one.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what the response is for VP. I feel like the Mirage is so valuable. It's hard to not see VP picking it up here. But the Geist, I think, is one of those, it feels like a denial thing. We talked about, or I was mentioning how I could see it be a ban. I was surprised for all the reasons you said, Jake, to see the Sinclair ban coming in from one win. But the Yamato, well, that's another one. I think, Jason, you've been saying this is so high prior right now. So big pickup from VP, and they still have another one to go. I mean, you could lock in the Mo here. It's like a no-brainer, like easy combo to go with the Yamato.
I mean, you deny Yamato from like ABL, and then you also get it for your own team when she's had a massive glow up in this last patch. A very smart pick here for Virtus.pro, but to see Mirage be pushed back to potentially a third pick out of VP or a third pick out of one win, that's kind of interesting.
Dicta over Mirage. That is very interesting. Obviously, by the way, it's worth mentioning that VP were playing the Crow build the most, I think. And so presumably the Crow build is not going to be prioritized as heavily because of the nerf that we saw to the percentages, again, of a reduction of spirit damage and so on, or rather the percentage amplification for spirit damage and so on. So Mirage?
My protection now.
Okay, all right. we finally got the Mirage.
I think, Jake, there's a world here, though, we could see maybe a Mo ban come in, actually, out of Virtus.pro to deny that away from one win. But then again, with the comp they have, it's not very in-your-face steamroller like we've seen one win of the past.
Yeah, I think Mo and Bebop are the type of heroes that I'm sort of expecting to see in the ban phase. Could also be a Kelvin, although I think Kelvin has been losing steam as of late in terms of like the high prio pick, especially with VP and one win splitting the Geist and the Yamato. There's no super obvious heavy frontliner. But the Abrams priority ban out of one win team, I wonder if this is almost like a protection for the Mo. I think Abrams is one of the better responses to Mo, with to be able to like instantly cancel the combo super consistently and be able to actually survive that, like going in on and going for the stun is like what you want to do anyway on Abrams. So I kind of hope to see VP ban the Mo here, but then that does expose them to a potential Bebop pick.
Well, good luck to you in your future endeavors.
I thought they would go for a Mo ban, just because with Abrams taken away, you're forcing Virtus.pro to either ban it or they're giving it up to one win. But the Bebop, I mean, we have seen Overseas just have ridiculous play when it comes to Bebop. Though Demob, technically, to be fair, did have some good showing of it today. But the thing for me is that one win, they're kind of wounded. They lost, like half an hour ago, 2-0 to Thanos, this NA mixed team that's ended up playing over on EU servers. I feel like they need to get a win here just for the morale of the team. And Mo and Krill is definitely going to be one way to do so. But they still don't have this very like dive-centric composition to just deathball against you. But the pick potential, of course, out of Paradox Mo is still going to be something you have to respect.
Does VP have someone that likes to play Bebop?
Demoff. But I
don't think it's as comfortable for them as other teams, though. I think it's a fair point, but I really think they almost need to grab it here. I think it's a good response to Mo and Krill on the laning phase. They're going to go with the 7. That's really interesting. I mean, we've seen 7 get quite a bit ignored recently, especially with Mo and Paradox. Two heroes are pretty strong at like dealing with the Storm Cloud, whether by swapping 7 in and killing him or just comboing him outright. So this is going to be a potentially pretty scary 7 game. Obviously, there's always the potential to pop off on 7 and get way ahead of the game, but I think there's a very real chance of getting run over with this one-win team, what they've drafted so far. The Calico should mitigate that a little bit, but Virtus.pro, I think they have a bit of a catch problem so far in the draft. I guess Vindicta Holiday, maybe that is more than enough catch. I stand corrected.
Yeah,
I think Go
Please,
ahead, Dan.
Jason. No, Jason.
Okay, me?
Please.
All right. I think Zergy has an agreement with his team. He's like, okay, I'll play Geist one game, but you gotta let me play 7 the next. Like a similar thing happened just earlier
Helping
today for them.
people's what I
That
do.
he played Geist, then he ended up getting like Ivy, or he ended up getting 7 right after. So I mean, at least for him, definitely more of a comfort pick, and definitely something you're gonna have to respect, especially if whoever's on Yamato, which at the moment is leaning towards Listic, if he has a good game, like he has a solid enough front line and pick potential to just really blast from behind.
Bebop, 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 Bebop.
I think it.
Could be like a little bit more of a carry. I'm not sure. Okay, this
Yeah,
is
that's.
I mean, getting
I'm allowed to
Bebop
say the F
last
word. I
is
was going
pretty.
to say the F word.
It's pretty illegal to get the Bebop this late in the draft, right? Like, and especially against Vindicta, 7 heroes that really do not want to be hooked and brought into a compromising scenario. Even Holiday, I think, could potentially struggle against Bebop. We've even seen Yamato get kind of owned by like hook silence combos, shutting her down in the mid game and like getting the catch and burst. And Bebop's like a natural silence builder. So the Viscous comes out, I guess, as a final response there to those, the greediness of your overall draft. You kind of really do need this hard save from the Viscous, that cube. I wouldn't even be super surprised to see cube maybe maxed out a little bit earlier than in other games. But I'm curious to see, because we haven't seen that much Viscous as of late. It's been definitely falling off.
It's been a very like focused ban, actually, a lot. I would say, like, at least what we saw the last 2 days of like the changes, because Mo's been played so heavily. We've seen a lot of teams like ban out Viscous to prevent the counter to his combo. But we also haven't really seen, I feel like, great success with Viscous in those matches either way when he did get let through.
It is interesting. This VP's comp seems very squishy, which is why the Viscous makes so much more sense. But yeah, I'm really curious how that dynamic's going to play out. I feel way more confident in the 1-win team. I feel like VP definitely need to have like a good early game, because I feel like if they get behind, I don't know, it's going to be a real struggle to find a way to survive if 1-win win the early game. They start roaming and you guys are kind of like behind on your farm. It's going to be a really rough position for VP to be in, but I feel like that's a bit more manageable for 1-win, just because of the comp differential.
I can kind of see the vision of the VP comp, right? You've got these 2 frontliners with the Calico and the Yamato. You've got the catch from the Holiday and a bit of save and catch from the Viscous. And then you've got this like major backline of range damage between the 7 and the Vindicta. It's like pretty greedy. In contrast, 1-win team are a lot more emphasizing like the forward aggressive play. However, if you can't get the pickoffs, I mean, then again, if Bebop and Paradox can't get the pickoffs, you got a big problem. But if you can, if Vindicta and 7 can dance away or get saved, and it's Yamato and Calico tanking some of your initiates, I could kind of see the fights turning around and Virtus.pro clutching them out. But it's really going to be a lot of pressure on 7 and Vindicta to not be caught, to be playing in like really strong positions and not being overextended on the map. I mean, the rotations that can come in from 1-win team are going to be really threatening, especially in that mid game.
I also like, by the way, that if you look at Calico Yamato being the kind of the front line, I guess, with the Viscous, the ground control that you'll have from the Geist bombs and the Ivy Kazoo bombs as well is kind of nice. Like I feel like they're going to be able to control these fights really well. At 1-win, that is. So that's another thing that kind of goes into their favor in my eyes.
One thing I do kind of worry about is going to be damage when it comes to 1-win, though. When we get into the late game, since you have the Yamato and the 7 to worry about, we can take a quick look, though, at our last 8 fight nights we've had here in the finals. You can see 1-win winning number 19, number 20, number 21, number 22, 4 weeks in a row off the back of losing 2-0 in a very one-sided fashion in DFN number 18. And now it's up to 1-win. Can they get their 5th week, which I think is approaching one of the longest streaks we've had in EU. We're about to drop in to our first match of the series here. I think lane matchups are also going to be extremely interesting. But I think all of us out there, Jake, we're going to be looking at that Bebop lane for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the Bebop lane's always hype in the early game. This hero gets banned out so much. It's exciting to see some of the best players in the game, what they can do on the Bebop, how they make it work, how they apply pressure, and of course, land those critical hooks. I'm also curious to see Xenia on the Mo Krill. I think piloting this Mo in the early laning phase is really a crucial element between being just like a combo bot in the late game and actually being a bit of a carry, snowballing in that early game and starting to roam, pressuring towers, things of that nature.
Well, Dan, we talked about ABL and the impact he has as an individual player when we see him on the likes of Great Talon, on Yamato, even Sinclair we've seen in the past. But how is his Geist? And how is his carry potential when it comes to Geist here in this game? I think that's something that's going to be tested for one win, and obviously the rest of the roster in particular. As we do see the lane matchups, we do have the Paradox Bebop in the mid lane up against the Vindicta 7. The 7 of all things. Interesting enough.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that pans out. I am confident in ABL. I think we've seen enormous degrees of versatility from ABL, and no reason to expect that to stop. So we watching that with great curiosity and excitement. And
I kind of like it though.
Yeah, it's me too.
The fact that they're kind of like, I mean, he's also being a somewhat selfless player of like letting other individuals be the step up and the carry for the team, where he was normally that player that we always looked out for in the past for one win. I mean, obviously Empty Dreams has had the assistance of ABL. I think he struggled in this roster before when he didn't have another carry player in the team. But then you also have Overseas on the Bebop, who's going to have massive impact, already getting some damage here up against Zergy in the mid lane. With that pause, that's a rough time to have it happen. But luckily for him, he's going to be able to get back away into the safety of his Guardian. But you're not putting a lot of pressure on Empty Dreams Overseas. And I would say even, Xenon to some extent, who's had some very good games on Mirage in the past, to carry one win through to victory here in this game, especially with the changes. The comps they've used in the past aren't going to be as successful. But really quickly though, Jake, before we do let you go, I want to let you chime in here on the lane matchups, on anything you want to discuss in these final moments of the start of the game.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting choice from VP in the mid lane to go with like the double super long range characters. Like if you get hooked on 7 and Vindicta, you have big problems. But you can also just play super passive, hold the waves, look for last hits only. And I think, as long as you do dodge most of the hooks and don't get picked off too often, I can see this paying off, at least as far as the laning phase goes.
Okay, well, Dan, getting into this one, you can kind of see, as Jake's talking about, playing really far from behind of the lane, just trying to play extra saves. That's going to be the hook coming through.
That's what Jake is saying. And Jake is not wrong.
Don't let that happen again, and you're fine. Now that I say that though, Overseas, he's kind of a problem on the Bebop.
Wow. Okay. I gotta say, actually, one quick point I wanted to make as well is that seeing Zenon on the Paradox as opposed to, I think, because we more typically see him on the Mirage, I think is another interesting thing too, because it's just the versatility on this one. Win team hello again. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, twice in a row.
That kinetic carbine's pretty damn dirty, to be honest, when you get hooked in and knocked up and you get locked down. Like, Mikhail S just returns lane and gets sent back to sender in the spawn, if that's how it phrase goes.
Sent back to the Shadow Realm. That sounds cool. You gotta use phrases that sound cool, Jason. You want to be
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is always cool, to be fair.
It's all fun and games until someone takes a bow.
Or I guess the upside down if you're a Stranger Things fan. That I think it's coming out pretty soon, if I'm not mistaken, like over in July. Oh, you know what? Hopefully Deadlock will be out before Stranger Things comes out. I would be very happy. I think a lot of people out there would be happy to see as well. But a tough start here for the mid lane for Virtus.pro for sure. Michaelis at 1.7 thousand souls up against the 2.7 out of Overseas, the 2.7 out of Xenon. Some tough times for VP in the mid lane, and you definitely, I think maybe the one advantage they have though, Dan, is that the push isn't coming in out of one win, so the threat of them losing their Guardian's really not there just yet.
Yeah. This is if we just look at the mini map, you can see that the one win is kind of pushed on the left side and the middle. Oh, another kill potentially under the tower. I think they're still accessible. Just gotta wait for that cube to time out. Just tanking the tower. The Guardian there is Zanya. I mean, you're Mo, of course you can. And I mean, there's no follow-up here really off the road for VP. Of the Sharik's back on the lane with the Calico, but there's no follow-up. And look at the free damage here on mid lane as well. It is one win, as you would expect to see them dominating the early game, as they always tend to, it seems. So far, at least.
Yeah, they weren't getting the Guardian damage earlier on, but with obviously their ultimate's been online, Michaelis, he might fall yet again here. The Kinetic Carbine comes in. Divine Barrier gonna buy him a little bit of time. The Tethers will connecting. And I think he will survive for now. Xenon going to be lucky as the chase won't come in out of Zergy. But both players escaping on very low health in that middle lane as ultimates started to come online here around the map as well. Listic and Shark able to get theirs going. Obi came at 2.5, the poorest on the team at the moment.
It almost, I wonder if it would have benefited Overseas to actually just die, because he escaped on like 1% health and he's just been kind of healing, writing himself up at the moment for a while. He's finally kind of back active again, but I always wonder in the early game. I guess it's like it's a game of just like small margins in that respect. But either way, we just continue to get this aggression. But this time, it's actually going to be going OneWin's favor, rather VP's favor on this right lane. This right lane is their only salvation so far in the early game. This is their only salvation.
And you know what? Sometimes that's all you need. We saw Listic pop off earlier on. One of the matches they had today, going, I think it was like 11 kill streak. Completely carried his team, gets the full rainbow on the end match statistics. And sometimes that's all you really do need. So at least winning on that one lane. Though on the left and mid lane, they are struggling. So I think maybe you're seeing Virtus.pro. If they can take that Guardian down, you do free up Demob to start to rotate into these other lanes to start to help out a bit with these lassos hitting, assisting to get your farm over to Zergy. Though I would almost imagine maybe you rotate Zergy out of this middle lane if we do see Virtus.pro take this right-hand Guardian. And maybe even Shark going to be going in for a push, but he's going to get comboed in the cube directly thereafter to prevent any damage from coming off of this one. And Virtus.pro still going to have to back away. How are they still bursting him down so hard? Empty Dreams just shredding Shark.
Yes. Yeah. That's kind of outrageous, honestly. The fact, OneWin, very strong in the moment. High constitution. I don't think we've seen many deaths for them. ABL goes down. Blindly. Hello, Flying Strike, trying to escape on Flammable, but not too much follow through, I think, here this early in the game from the Yamato. But if with some assistance, it all comes together. And just like that, 3 kills in fairly quick succession going the way of VP. However, it's not just about these kills in the early game. It's about that tower damage as well. And here is the follow-up. Okay, Ballistic's going to get away, though. So that's okay. That's all right. It's all right for VP.
I think it's actually almost even more than all right now with how this has been going. Like that Guardian's very low on health, and if you can free up this lane, like either Listic's gonna get super farmed or Zergy's gonna be getting access to a lot of farm as well. It's at least Virtus.pro able to win one of the 2 or one of the 3 lanes is definitely going to keep them in the running in this game, and only down by 1,000 souls considering we were at a 3k deficit for them just a few minutes before. And on top of that pressure of the Bebop Paradox lane in the middle, it seems to have curved off and faltered away, as Virtus.pro have been able to play more defensively here at the, I guess, expense of their Guardian's damage.
Well, it's a bit more aggressive here from VP, trying to push this right lane again. They know that they have the edge there for sure. Oh, with that said, though, I'm curious what Zanya might be up to. Looking to make his rotation across maybe to the mid lane from the left lane. Leaving Empty Dreams alone on that Mirage on the left. And 8 minutes have come up, and so this is, we get all the spawns now. And again, I'm still looking at Zanya coming in onto that mid lane, looking for the gang, looking for the dive, is going in for it at the moment. And we get assistance also because Flammable has joined the effort. 4v2, it seems unfair. The mob is on that mid lane here, turning up for OneWin to try to claim these kills, and maybe even the Guardian as well. It's quite low, but there is a response from VP, making their way across as well. We'll have Holiday and Yamato in the mix, but it's a little too late.
Yeah, a little too late indeed. Listic, he tried to get over there in time to help out Zergy to keep him surviving in this fight. And now he's just trying to take away, or trying to secure his own jungle as OneWin actually to push up, start to take away these sitter sacrifices. Even Overseas just waiting for that hook. The combo's going to come through. That one's on to Demob, who's still very healthy. And anything, Zanya's going to be the one to go down from this one. So Virtus.pro able to get 1 kill back for themselves. And Overseas, he's trying to turn tail and run back towards his own lane. Speaking of tails, Shark, he will run away back in that Ava form. But Virtus.pro is stabilizing. Like, that was looking very bad for them. And maybe even a good time to bring in Jake here about how Virtus.pro, this Listic Demob lane has really been the saving grace for them.
Yeah, so far so good for the VP boys, keeping it in contention. I mean, I think it is kind of the dream. Like, if you want one hero to be ahead in this game, it probably is the Yamato. We talked about how she can struggle sometimes when she's forced to tank engagements from like a low net worth position. Guys is just ignoring the Yamato and continuing to farm camps. Pretty interesting interaction there. But Listic can get active now, right, with that tower down.
The hook in, he's just like, thanks for the assist. I can save my Flying Strike a little bit more. And he will back off after he uses Shroud Transformation to make sure he doesn't get bursted down here in time. But interesting enough, it seems like Virtus.pro have kind of made the call. Let's let Demob stick over towards that right-hand lane to farm up. And at the same time, Zanya was actually the one over there. But as he shoves out the lane, he's looking to take away a lot of this farm. Buff's going to be coming up as well as the Urn spawning in on this left-hand side. Looks like the left-hand buff will be picked up by OneWin and the right-hand buff. So a big advantage here going into this Urn.
Yeah, something that I really love about the Ivy picks is the dynamic, but the easy turn-in for 1 win ultimately. VP not really in position. And so they won't be able to deny it. And the run across is happening. So here's Zanya up on the combo there. Is alone. I don't know if this is going to work out. Zanya trying to escape. I mean, the damage output here from Holiday is pretty epic. The pursuit continues, but the finds around the corner against the parry. Unreal. Also getting a bit of a heal off of that one as well, but surely it will not continue indeed. Okay, but that was a little scary.
The movement tech was sick out of Devob. The only problem is he goes for the chase on Azanya, and it allows 1 win to get the earn turn in off of that. Yes, the advantage is Virtus.pro do take the left-hand Guardian, but either way, like Azanya, I think, did his job, even though he did die, making sure his team can get that turn in, give them now a 2K lead. They don't have an objective to take on the right-hand side, but that was sick, man. Like, watching plays like that, I know you're a big fan of movement, Dan, like taking a look at your history, like with Quake and other games like that. That was so sick to see and makes me so sad knowing that my movement's never going to be that good.
No chasing. Practice. D2 can be a movement goddess. Now, oh, hello. That's a nice find. You know what? I hyped that up a bit more than it maybe deserved, but it looks nice when getting assassinated. So there we go. It also looks nice too. Carrying overseas off into his untimely demise. And so VP looking to really put the pressure on here onto this Walker, and they have a great situation here on the numbers. They may even be able to get the Walker in addition to the extra kill. This is a problem for 1 win.
You gotta be careful, Xenon. Goes to the swap, catches up McKayless, who will fall with the help of ABL, but that's where the Shadow Transformation coming in once again here out of Listic, trying to win out on this fight against ABL, who will not have the swap anymore, but the parry comes through in time. The stun protection out of Listic falls away while the Shadow Transformation disappears. And 1 win do turn it around, do defend the Walker, and come out with the kill lead. Not to mention another hook, potentially with the kill over on Azurgi, but he's still sitting very pretty in the sky, over half HP. But a very good response, and honestly, I was almost expecting Virtus.pro to almost guarantee get that Walker down.
I would like to request the presence of Dr. Jake to give the assessment and prescription of this game.
I mean, I think the key really is this 7 in Vindicta continuing to catch up. It seems like a foregone conclusion that Listic and Dmov are going to have like pretty decent games here, but we need 7 in Vindicta to become those like big late game damage threats in the sky. And then even if you get there, you need to be able to execute those fights. You know, when there's things like Phantom Strike coming out from Xenia, if Overseas can find Hook, like all your net worth might be for nothing. And so I'm just curious to see the itemization, the farm potential. I think that VP should have a little bit better scaling in this game if they can get to the ultra late, but I don't think it's going to matter if there's like a clear advantage or some big rejuves.
Well played.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Jake in there, not missing a beat. Well, we look at the aggression we're seeing on the right side there. 1 win will collect a Guardian there. That was the last one, tier 1 remaining. And in the meantime, they're going to need to make their way over to this mid lane real fast because the pressure is on here. This could turn into a good gank opportunity for 1 win.
Overseas coming from the side too, looking for a hook. Virtus.pro trying to retreat in the same direction so they stay grouped. And hopefully for their sake, dodge any hooks that come their way. Also with the reinforcement on the right-hand lane out of D-Mob to help out McKayless, they're definitely at a man disadvantage. And 1 win, well, gank attempt's not going to work out here as, of course, in EU, here in DFN, going to have a pause coming out of Empty Dreams this time. As we take stock of things, I mean, we do have about a minute till the next urn comes up, and this is an urn that I think VP cannot really afford to let go for free like they did the previous one. But if we talk about like soul allocation, we talk about the economy out of both these two teams. I mean, one big thing that is going to stand out is Empty Dreams sitting on 16K being gifted over a lot of farm right now. And one thing that we did mention in the draft is that 1 win could be lacking a lot of damage. Empty Dreams is looking to carry that weight on his shoulders.
And you know what? I've got to mention, talking about where the heroes are, Obikim on the Viscous is by far, you know, just the lowest souls of everybody. And given sort of the relative role that Obikim kind of serves on the team to maybe be a bit more tanky and distract from Listic on the Yamato and Sharik on the Calico. Jake, what do you, as a very experienced Viscous human, what does this really mean in terms of VP's strength in these fights?
I mean, I think Viscous actually doesn't really need net worth in this comp since he really does just exist to cube. I mean, I'm actually curious if he's maxing cube maybe a little earlier or maybe proing something like the roll. But I just expected Viscous really the roles just to be not getting caught, saving people crucially from hooks, combos, and swaps. And then, I think a big role, no matter what your net worth is, can still do the impact that your team needs, right? Like you're going to have the damage from other sources. I don't think that needs to be Viscous this game. But I think if he gets caught off first, that's where we're going to have real problems. So I think Obakim, he's a very strong player on everything. So I would be surprised if he has any different read here, or if he's getting caught off first, because I think he can play this pretty safe, pretty fast, and just look to react and shut down the plays that one win team go for.
All right, well, one winner up in VP's face right now here, Jason. They are in their jungle, stealing their goods.
I hate that. I hate when people steal my goods. It is the worst thing, and it's something that can really punish teams quite heavily, since you kind of depend and rely on that farm. It's really minimal ways to have maximal results for a team. As a Q comes through at Obakim while he was queued up, Goo Ball going to be used as well. He will escape. At least that's one big ultimate down, but it's on a very quick cooldown. Shark going to be going for the kill here on that Guardian. So able to secure this one down, and looks like most likely able to escape the fight. In the meantime, it's going to be breaking out over towards the Yurt. Able to secure it off the bat with the hyper beam out of Overseas to give that Overwatch position. And he does get it back towards his side of the map. So you're almost certain that both teams are priming for a fight here towards that left-hand turn-in.
Yeah, and without those mid teleporters, you got to be a lot more thoughtful in your rotations, because you don't have a TP to just save you or to play off of in that same way. So making their way across VP, across the map, but one might just be using this as bait at the current moment, as they don't really have the resources, the manpower to attempt a delivery, although Empty Dreams is there. But at the same time, VP going for the mid boss is a really interesting a ton of events. Looks like they're fully committing to this.
Yeah, not too surprised. We've seen them do it before when they realized there was no chance for them to get the urn. One would not set up for a punish on this, so they're going to settle for the urn turn-in and maybe settle for some early damage onto this mid and right lane Walker, though I don't think they're going to actually be able to secure it in time. So a decent response by VP if they realize, we're not really going to feel like we can test the urn. Instead, we'll take a bigger advantage for our team. And now this is really kind of like go time for them, considering they have the quicker respawns. They're going to have the waves all pushing. And they potentially have some catches on this right-hand side. As you can see, Zergy leading the charge, trying to get a stun through. And Listic literally confirm the kill on a Xenon. He's most certainly going to fall. So with the man up, what are VP looking to accomplish? Maybe a Walker, maybe another flex stop from it.
Yeah, there's so many options here for VP. All those lanes will be pushed. They're going to have, pretty free reign on the jungle too. You just have to pressure your opponents into those walkers, and then you can just free up the jungle farm. There's so much you can do with this. VP, a master of leveraging, or rather compounding their advantages here. We got the defense from one win that has been put both on the mid and the right side walker. Points of contention, and that hook looks so close. That would have been a fantastic catch. That honestly could have been somewhat game-changing at this time. However, the mid push is coming into full effect. The Storm Cloud is out there. There's a nice swap coming in. The cube to save. The utility of that has been really impactful, just like Jake was mentioning in the pregame. And in the meantime, still, there's a defense still on this right side walker. So one win having this very delicate, fragile dance between both these walker defenses.
Like we saw at a Paravision before, they did eventually lose on a Walker in that trade, though. And it looks like they're going to be losing a Walker here for one minute on the right-hand side. But the collapse is going to be coming from ABL from behind. Even though they are down to man, they're still going to have an advantage on this right-hand side, considering we can see Zergy and Obakim are going to be pushing middle. And you know what? I think that's a trade they're going to be happy with. As long as Virtus.pro can look to escape, look to not lose too many more players, maybe they have themselves a second Walker. But one would quickly rotate through. Shark's going to fall. And at least for a woman, able to pick up the 2 kills for the 1 death and the 1 loss of the Walker on the right-hand side. But they still have been relatively successful in this defense.
Yeah, big catches on the retreat of VP as well. 2 kills, certainly great. And the fact that they only lost on Walker, just like you're saying, I don't think one win are actually too upset with how this transpired. And they're going to be perhaps, I think, in a better position come next mid-boss to be able to actually contest that. They don't have awful mid-boss contest. So especially given all of the space control they have with some of the AoE abilities and the hooks and the comp. There's just a lot of cool tools that they have. But with that said, taking stock of things here, maybe it's a good moment to bring Jake in, actually, because there's somewhat of a lull.
Yeah, I really like the VP's decision there to go for the mid boss. You know, like in the end, Oneman's holding the urn in their base. You can't really do anything about that other than forcing the mid boss. So they make that play, and even though they give up the urn and the soul advantage looks good for one win, VP have been trading their reju respawns for objectives, creating space on the map. If they can hold the map in its current position, they're gonna slowly out farm. Like they're controlling more of the map, and ultimately that's what taking those walkers down achieves for you, right? It just secures more of the map for your team to farm in. I think if they can keep these waves pushed out and maybe start to keep that pressure on the mid lane, there is quite a bit of jungle spawning right now that we could see a fight over, especially near the mid lane.
One thing I do worry about though is where the brunt of the souls are for Virtus.pro. It's pretty much been pumped into D-Mob. Obviously not too far ahead, but still 4K is quite a bit compared to Listic on the Yamato and Shark on the Calico. On the other side for one win, we talked about MG Dreams, and well, we're just talking about Shark. He gets hooked in. And Virtus.pro, I mean, this is something we talked about in the draft. You got to be very careful about getting hooked in. You got to be very respectful to the hit comp that one win does have at the moment. As another pause going to be coming through as the buffs respawning back in. And of course, the urn once again. I mean, this is just the threat of overseas. Like, he can always make plays happen for his team with these hooks. And Shark, probably, you know, one of the tankier members of the team, gets blown up with relative ease.
Yeah, and the control in these fights, I think, especially when one win are together, it's gonna be tough because they got a lot more tankiness, they got a lot more utility to disable their opponents and so on and so forth. So I feel like, you know, VP, it's a little bit more challenging to get the optimal conditions in these team fights. That's at least my read of this. And you can see right here they are winning that mid buff fight as well, and the urn is they have position on the urn to do one win, so they're in a good spot. It feels like, for me at least, to take over the game a little bit, or at least swing things into their favor insofar as they are taking initiative. Because I feel like in Deadlock especially, you know, it's really about are you taking the initiative and forcing your opponent to react, or are you in the opposite seat where you're having to react to constant pressure? And it's always going to be better if you're forcing the opponent to make decisions in your decision matrix that you've created.
And sometimes the decisions and the engagements kind of get taken away from you. When overseas hits hooks like that and you're down a man as Virtus.pro, the last thing you want to do is run head first into one win to try to contest buffs, to try to contest urn, and lose more players and lose more of an advantage. I mean, they're down already 5,000 souls. They've backed away from this urn. It's still going to be a neutral turn-in, or at least it should be. And one win should be able to get, you know, a pretty decent lead off the back of this. 20 seconds on Shark. I mean, he's not going to be there in time to contest this. And Virtus.pro, this is a very risky proposition. If you overcommit to this defense, you could be looking at a first loss in the series.
Yeah, and this is exactly that scenario of okay, we've got the initiative, they're taking the urn, they're going to be forcing a reaction. Are you going to try to fight this? And like you say, it's a hard choice. We'll see what the setup looks like. So far, it's not looking amazing. Can they delay or deny? Can they create an opportunity here? Get some abilities dropped onto the deposit spot. So looks like VP are certainly trying to contest this, but there comes a drop in, and we will get it delivered there for one win. So they secure that at the very least. Oh, we get a hook from across the courts, and that's going to be an insta-kill onto Oberkim. So your support, your save is gone.
Damn, that hook, like, what do you even do if you're Oberkim in that position with that hook, the way it came through? I'm surprised to see the urn get turned in so freely, though, if Virtus.pro was still so contested around the position, since Viscus is one of the best, if not the best heroes, to deny the turn-in with his puddle punches. But either way, I mean, they've allowed the urn to go through. They've allowed Empty Dreams to continue to farm up on this left lane uncontested. 27,000 souls now. He's kind of hitting this threshold of being unstoppable, I would say. Especially if he keeps continually being left alone here, which in the left lane he's currently having happen. It's going to be Zerga to contest, but with a massive soul discrepancy between the two, I think Empty Dreams wins that trade any day of the week. And with one win not having minions here to push into that walker, they're going to just back away and maybe turn their eyes over towards mid lane.
Yeah, and you can see the control is so much in their hands to be able to do that or whatever. Yeah, you know, they decide to disengage, but obviously VP have to orient themselves to provide a defense, a countermeasure to that forward aggression. So the TP comes in there, repositioning, grabbing some of that jungle farm. Mid boss is coming up in a minute, so it's going to be a pretty key time for these next fights. These next fights could be converted on pretty heavily, and I don't know how much jungle's left on the map just yet. As we switch back into the other cam, we'll see that again. There we go. So not a huge amount of jungle on the map at the moment. Both teams actively looking for pressure and picks. There's a catch.
The backup's there, though. Rescue beam used as well to keep him healthy. So they invest the Holiday Lasso. They invest the 3 players in the right-hand lane. And one win, they escape it, and if anything, they get a walk on the left-hand side because of this. I think maybe the response on Virtus.pro could be a take. The combo going to come through onto Listic to shut him down. The Shred Transformation not going to come in time, and he will fall. And if they're able to kill him, one of the supposed carries for the team here for Virtus.pro, then one win. It's looking like they maybe have this game in the bag.
Yeah, this is huge. These kills are going to be worth their weight in gold, platinum, diamonds. Are they heavy? I don't know. But all these shiny, fancy things, these are worth a lot right now, and they can just go straight down, slide down those stairs like they're, you know, doing those like little water slides at the water park. I don't know if you're into that, but straight into the mid boss.
I had a bad experience with the water park once when I was younger. I swear it was like 10 stories high, and the steepness of that slide. I came full off the slide, and I was worried I was going to go over the edge. And since then, I've not been on a water slide since. It's been scary. The nose that I had, you know, really caught wind in the air, and I almost fell out.
Oh my god! Sorry, man.
It's okay. I'll get over my fear one day.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good. Well, there's the mid boss. He's going to be killed by one win. They shouldn't have any issue taking this one. At the same time, we have a pressure on that left side walker coming in from Flammable. Flammable's going to die, although died just after, I think, like a split second before getting the rejuve. So it's going to be a fast respawn.
And Shark gets the middle walker too. Actually, that's all the walkers taken by Virtus.pro. Considering they were down a player, they ended up going for the walkers instead. It works out for them. They do close this gap to about 10k. They still have to worry about getting out of this. And with Overseas ready with the hooks, D-Mobs, well, he's not going to be escaping this one. And now with the man advantage for one with a 50-second respawn time, they just shove the lanes out. And you know they'd be looking at this mid and right-hand side lane. Not to mention Earn coming up in 40 seconds time. This could be a massive soul lead that they're able to pick up in this next minute to 2 minutes time.
Yeah, it's definitely the balls in their court. Oh, that's a find. That is a find. However, that's going to force the ult out. I mean, the cooldown's pretty quick for Calico on pretty much everything, but always nice to force an ult out early, right before they go into the engage towards this walker. And they can do a lot of funny business around this engage here, because they can force, obviously, the defense to accumulate, all the players to accumulate around the walker. They can play off on the sides and get good angles into this engage. You can already see that Empty Dreams is on the right side there, trying to pick off players from the right. And then as the team moves in the front, so really nice positional stuff coming in from one win, take down the walker, and VP just, they can't really contest this without wiping at this point.
I think they're very aware of that too. Listic looking like he might be getting caught out. The knockdown comes through. The knock up, the knock down and up. Just getting knocked everywhere for Listic. As the last one's going to come through to pull it Overseas under the walker. Even if he falls here, he still has the rejuve to back into. But the Arnie is still going to be left to its own as they're trying to take out this walker without any like creep wave, without any minion pressure to fend off this backdoor protection. But they don't really seem to care. They're just going to brute force it either way. And Shark's position is actually pretty damn smart, denying the waves so they won't have that backdoor protection be taken care of, but they still have enough damage as it is anyways to just secure it.
Yeah, and this is very much, as you were saying, that mid boss, or rather the fight around the mid boss that preceded it, to allow for it to be taken by one win. It's transpired now into all of these big advantages. Near 30k soul lead. We're going to get this earn turn in as well for one win. So bad to worse for VP. They can't do anything to contest this at this point. 3 players out of the action, and all these base guardians I feel like are now also at risk. One win on the precipice of a certain victory, one would think, unless VP can find a way to stem the bleeding. But it feels like there's more problems than that. It just feels like the comp is sort of struggling a little bit as well in the late game team fight environments.
It feels like there's one win for some reason, or the kryptonite of Virtus.pro. Just to quickly show, we also have Echo Shard picked up here for Xenon. You saw the double time bombs come through. You see Refresher picked up for Flammable. Sees the double airdrops. A lot of these like big items coming through. Even Toxic Bullets picked up for Overseas. Echo Shard actually for Obikim, so we're going to have the potential for the double cubes. Definitely not going to see the damage dealer Viscus this time at 21,000 souls. So at least some survivability being picked up in Virtus.pro in the hands of Obikim, but the damage and the utility go in the way of one win with the recent purchases.
Let's go blue.
I hate to do this to you, Jake, but is there any way that VP can come back?
Headed to blue.
It would take such a heroic effort here. I feel like Overseas Silencer has just been MVP this game. I mean, so many kills from that like long range hook onto Obikim's Viscus to Listic and Sharik. I mean, they're just really struggling with the threat that the Silencer poses. Now, though, it looks like a team fight breaking out. Could be the last one of the game.
That's one of those cubes, Jason. And it's just, okay, well, Holiday's been rescued, but there's a second cube.
No more cubes left to be used in this fight now for Obikim, and Virtus.pro have to realize this. Empty Dreams, though, at least low at HP, so a decent sign for Virtus.pro because see Shark, Zergy both falling down as well. Listic's already been pushed out of the fight, and ABL and Empty Dreams immediately respawn with the double kill coming through. And with 60 seconds on the respawn timer, those base Guardians are going to be falling here for one win. And most likely the Shrine's on top of that. Virtus.pro, I don't know what they can do to get back into it. That was so mean of you to put, you know, Jake on the spot like that. Like, what can Virtus.pro do to get back into it when it's looking so grim, especially after this last fight? 40,000 soul lead for one win. And it looks like they're going to be taking the first map in this series.
I know, it's just funny because sometimes I've been brought in, it's like, okay, Dan, what can they do here? And I'm like, all right, bro, I mean, come on. But anyway, looks like, yeah, the base is going to get destroyed. There doesn't seem, I mean, at this point, the stat check difference is also kind of ridiculous. So they can go for it. They can just keep it going. There's no need to pull off. There will be a final engagement, it would seem here, just a final effort, the Hail Mary coming in, but, and actually, you know what, Flammable's going to go down. So, you know, respectable result, and there's no rejuve here, so that's actually going to scare away one win, because they would otherwise be in a 6v5 were they to continue pushing. There's not much jungle left on the map, but they are fully disengaged.
And they're still going to be down a man when the rejuve spawns back in, so for Virtus.pro, maybe that's your opportunity. Quickly shove these lanes out. You got 20 seconds for the mid-boss respawn. Head over there and maybe just try to get it as quick as possible, because you really need a Hail Mary play to have a chance in this game now. When there's no objectives to take outside the base of one win. So if anything, we can see VP starting to group up for the mid-boss respawn. Maybe even looking for a catch. Would be a decent start if they can somehow grab out Zanya. The last is going to miss, and he will retreat to safety. But when the roar comes in, I guess VP are not going to commit to it.
It's interesting how, yeah, the ethereal shift change has been at the top of our minds. You know, if you think about how, you know, Bebop did get obviously some nerfs, but that he's probably coming out overall like way better because of the E-shift nerf too.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of heroes that kind of got better indirectly. Like Warden is another one, which we haven't seen so far today in DFN, that got a pretty decent buff because of it. But Warden requires you to play like a certain style around him when he has last stand up and the ability to like lock down a team. The one we're now going to be shifting their attention over towards this mid boss. Already have, you know, you're going to be approaching a 50k lead now in this game, and Virtus.pro is not in a position to contest. They're letting this one go for free, which it kind of surprised me a little bit. I mean, maybe if they can secure the urn, this could be what they need to get some sort of extra income towards their side to possibly pick up a much needed item that honestly I don't think one item is going to really save them at this stage in the game.
It's just, yeah, it feels very hard for them to find picks. Even with a lasso, it seems like not quite enough. That's another reason why Bebop feels so amazing, because the hook's range is so incredible. You can always find a way to get a pick with it and isolate a player on the other team, even in late game scenarios. So either way, with that said, obviously the swarm of one win is protecting fully the deposit spot for the urn. So this urn is never going to be delivered, at least not by VP. And one win, they're going to be splitting their efforts here, using the TP to be able to hit two sides at once. I think that's super smart.
Oh, yeah. Combo coming through. ABL is going to be there to support Shark. He's going to fall, and that's going to be the man advantage taken for one win yet again. If anything, Virtus.pro just need to push on this right-hand side. They need to be the ones to force the fight here and get an advantage somehow, while realizing that Shark's going to go down, pulling out two players away. You can see VP in their base. They have pushed forward. One win trying to escape from this one, constantly retreating away until they get the backup from the team. Who's going to be teleporting over towards that right-hand side lane just here in a few seconds. And Virtus.pro, that window you had to work with, it's gone.
And here are the follow-up kills coming in on the lane. not too much for VP to do. They're trying their best to try to withstand the might of one win, but the difference in advantage is far too big at this point. Oh my god, what are you doing, ABL? Okay, he's in that base like he's in my DMs. ABL is just so hungry for the wins, for the victories, and I don't know if that joke makes sense unless you guys are around in the beginning of the broadcast, but in the pits
to me, and that's all that matters, Dan.
Well, this looks like it will finally be a one win, looking to start off as they have continued here in impeccable form.
Well, there's a reason we've seen Virtus.pro consistently ban away Bebop from one win, and we're seeing why in particular. Overseas finishes things off for one win to get themselves their first map in the series and one step closer to taking home the $1,000 prize pool here in this money match. I don't know what it is about one win, but Virtus.pro have been struggling for 5 weeks now to take them down, and it's looking like it's going to continue on here into the history between these two teams.
Yes, and I love the battle that we have in these finals because it's best of 3 and adaptation is the name of the game after the first match. So I can't wait to see how that story develops here today.
Yeah, let's bring in Jake. Let's not delay any longer. Let's start to talk about this last game because one win, I mean, it was very close up to a point, but Overseas was really able to open things up, not to mention the damage coming out of Empty Dreams and that Mirage was able to just pop players left and right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Yamato and Calico have been two of the strongest picks in the last few weeks. Like, a lot of teams are picking them up, and Overseas just kind of dealt with them both with that Bebop silencer. Not to mention that, but so many incredible early game hooks, snowballing. I mean, it's such a scary proposition playing against this guy because not only does he have the Bebop, but also the great talent. So he's got these like 2 super high prio bands that you really have to think about taking away. But of course, you can't get them both. So, you know, it's just one of their many threats, one of the many options they have to be a team that's really challenging to play these best of 3s. I do think VP had a pretty decent start to the game, especially off that early rejuve take. It felt like maybe they could get something done. But then so much has come down to these hook picks. Like, you know, seems like a decent fight for VP, and now it's gone. You lost your key saving member, and you can't really get back into the fight.
Yeah, Dan, I think we also can't forget about like how this game really started off, because it really was like Overseas put on the pain. He got a double kill into Michaelis, one after another on the respawn.
Yeah.
And they were winning left lane too on top of that. The one saving grace Virtus.pro had was Listic on that right hand side with Dmov. They were able to put the pain down and actually win out on quite a few of those fights, but they couldn't continue that and snowball that into the later stages of the game where one winner were eventually able to just overpower them, especially with the rejuves that Jake did point out. As we take a look at our stats here in this last game, I was for some reason expecting Entries to be a little bit higher when it came to damage, but he was still leading his team at 29,000.
Yeah, really well played by one win, of course, across the board. And it's interesting to see. I mean, Michaelis did a great job of still getting the damage in on that longer range, but it seemed like the rest of the team, you know, what you'd expect, obviously, the Calico, the Yamato to maybe have a better performance in that respect. But it just seems, especially with all those hooks, that it just seems very hard, I think, for the comp to really get going and to synergize in a way that you'd want to see it synergize. And it seemed like the synergies for one win's composition was way more evident. It definitely felt more rounded, but it was very hard against like the pick potential. It's kind of crazy with a Mo and a Bebop, and it really puts you in this place where you have to wonder, how do VP fix the draft going into the next stage?
Yeah, I wonder if they have to take the Bebop for themselves and make use of it. I mean, I do think also the Geist really justified its top 2 pick status for ABL. I mean, that's not only massive player damage, but huge healing, being incredibly hard to bring down. The Paradox, I mean, that building damage on Paradox is kind of absurd. So just across the board, one win team, you know, really playing the strengths and all of their cores having great games. This is what we talked about, which makes this team so hard to play against, is there's so many different threats. You can't come into the draft and think all about the Bebop just because that was such a big factor last game. If you 100% tunnel that, you're going to be giving up some big strength somewhere else in the lineup that could just as easily take you down. So for VP, it's got to be the holistic approach. It's got to be, I wonder if they can get the guys for themselves, but I mean, man, it went top 2. That's a tough spot to be. It feels like that is a hero that VP have utilized really well in the past, have valued. So could be something they want to take earlier, but I mean, what, are you going to take it first? That also feels kind of bad.
Yeah, taking a first pick Geist would definitely feel bad, especially with like Holiday, potentially open Sinclair, Great Town, whatever it might be. But for now, at least VP do have a little bit of a break here to figure out what they want to do going into the next draft. Just like you guys at home watching, have a chance to go take a quick bathroom break, maybe get something to snack on, something to drink, because we're going to be back shortly here with DFN number 23 presented by Intel, with potentially the conclusion of the EU portion of our show. And we're back with the Deadlock Fight Night number 23 presented by Intel, as we're making our way here into our second match and our second map between One Win and Virtus.pro, with currently One Win up 1-0 in the series. The Kryptonite of Virtus.pro seems to be One Win, but we have to find out if they can maybe overpower the Kryptonite finally, like they did last week, taking one map in the series and bring it to a third. So Jason Kaplan, so joined by Dan, DDK the man. I know it's not your last name, but I feel like it has a decent rhyme to it. And we also have another person coming in here on the desk to join us once again. I'm going to bring you in right away. It's going to be Alex.
I did the Alex voice once, Jason. I'm not doing it again. I have to use the voice a lot this week, and that takes a lot out of it. You know, I'm pacing myself. You got one hit of Alex today. That's all you're getting.
Hey, the one hit was good enough for me. We still need to think up what's Dan's alter ego, because we haven't come up with one for him yet.
Doug.
Another D
Doug.
name.
It has to be Doug. Is where it's like it. Yes.
Doug, I like it. Doug, going into the second half of the series, what do you got for us, Doug?
Wait, I haven't workshopped this at all, guys. I haven't workshopped this at all.
Just go American accent. Go
all
American
right.
accent.
American accent. You know, I can't. My wife can't get me to do an American accent. That's how vulnerable it is to me. I don't know why. You put me on the spot here.
We'll check with Doug later on. You have some time to work on Doug, because I know you have a lot you want to say about this series and where you potentially could see things go.
Well, I think first off, you know, we saw the return of an incredibly impactful Bebop, courtesy of Overseas, where I do wonder how it's going to impact draft strategy and, you know, do you decide to ban or pick it earlier? But more than that, I think the thing that I've been seeing as a trend all day long here in Deadlock and really on this patch is that the Geistflation is real. We already saw kind of the rumblings in EU, right? Where all of a sudden people decide, hey, we're going to pick Geist even earlier in the draft. And Geist, you know, basically in the span of a few days has gone from being in her usual third or fourth pick for a team now into top 2. And I just wonder, is it going to keep going to the point that maybe you wonder and you pick a Geist over a Holiday? I think the only thing that may prevent that is the idea that if you don't pick a Holiday or Paradox in your very first round, teams are very willing to pick both and just leave you in a bit of a hole. But other than that, we're seeing the priorities shift pretty rapidly here. And even as good as Yamato is, I think when you go up against the Bebop ramp into a Geist on the other end, you know, there are limits even to what a Yamato can do, especially in trying to get that point of overwhelming farm.
Well, I like this bit, Jason, because we get to see what VP decide to do. We talked about... Yes, no, maybe. I can't read your mind, actually, so I don't.
You love this part, but I also love how we have I Love NASCAR back in chat for you. Another week in a row. Great time to be banned away. What do you maybe expect out of Wood? Because I think we saw Sinclair as a response last time, Dan.
The Sinclair one is interesting. Maybe they know something we don't. We know that one would love to play it on Flammable. The thing is that should they change anything? That's kind of the question. When you win, when you're the ones that you've won, you can put your opponents in a position where you kind of force mistakes. You don't have to force a mistake in yourself by changing something. So I think what they're doing by taking the same approach so far kind of sounds good, and they kind of react off of VP. And obviously one would have a pretty diverse hero pool. So it's up to VP. You guys said, will they pick Geist first? Maybe, like how do they weigh up the issues?
You can only run from the law for so long.
The same response.
In this case, I think you have to go Holiday first. And again, it just comes down to the fact that given that one gets 2 picks back to back, they will go Holiday Paradox at this point if you didn't pick one of the 2. But it does give one win, you know, from the second pick, where, by the way, VP still decided they like the first pick advantage. So, you know, even still, it's kind of weighing, you'd rather have Holiday no matter what, even if you're giving up this power to the other side right away, where Mirage is going to come in and the other pick here has to be Paradox. It cannot be anything else. Otherwise, VP would come back in with Paradox +1. The one thing I think I would like to see change from VP, though, I don't love the idea of giving up Mo and Krill and then thinking you're going to fix the problem with a Viscous, especially when you're running something like the Holiday. I think if you go back to the draft strategy there, even if it would have meant giving up the Yamato, I think that would have been the lesser of the two evils to giving up the Mo and Krill, weakening your early game presence, and going from there. But also, speaking of Geist inflation, 1win. They decide to grab the Geist here and now. So now if you're VP, I think you call the bluff, you punish it, you grab the Paradox here. If you go Paradox Mo, 1win's ability to get picks is basically negated entirely.
I mean, you would then force 1win to maybe pick Bebop on their third round because they need to have something.
Yeah, that would make sense. I hope it plays out like that because yeah, I think you're right. They have to because otherwise they'll get banned. I think there's no two ways about it. It gets 100% banned by VP. So okay, so Paradox, okay, and this is also interesting because it shows us, okay, well, 1win, do they need, how much pick potential do they need to still operate their strategy in a comfortable way? But we'll see if VP actually, like, what are they going to do here? Are they going to go follow through in the ways that you guys are mentioning? No, they get the Yamato instead. Okay, they did that the previous game as well. They picked up the Yamato, I think, in this slot. So yeah, Bebop?
I think you're right, though. If 1win has to pick Bebop here, or it's going to get banned, or on the same note, I think there's a world where VP could come back in and just ban the Mo also. I think it's a really close call between banning the two of them. I think based on what happened in the last game, you can make a stronger argument to ban the Bebop if it is not picked here and now. They decide to go for the Mo. So yeah, I think you limit 1win to just the Mo here. They're going to have some pick potential with the Mo, but if you get rid of the Bebop, you are kind of forcing 1win into a corner where not only is their early to mid game going to be a little bit rough, but their comeback potential is also going to be stifled given the fact that they've given up this amount of power to VP. And also, look, I'm just saying the way it is right now, there's this weird mind virus going on in EU. If you ban the Bebop, there may be a world where 1win thinks we should go Lash. And that really hasn't worked out well recently.
I think we might see a pocket from 1win potentially here. I feel like I feel like we're going to see Pocket. I don't know. Anyone else getting the Pocket vibes?
I'm thinking we might see Shiv Kelvin if Virtus.pro go for the Bebop ban, actually. I think we might see like the double lock-in. I know ABL played Shiv earlier on today against their match with Thanos. Then again, they don't get a double pick here. They only get the single pick.
Also, as expected, the Bebop getting banned. So no matter where 1win goes from here, I mean, unless, again, they want to try and make the Lash work, by all means, give it a shot. But I think at this point, VP has now given themselves a really good early to mid game. The question is, what are they going to do to solidify as far as the front line goes? Overall, they've been a fan of, they might go Shiv here. Yeah, and not because I think Shiv is great, but I don't think they want to give up the Kelvin Shiv lane. And I kind of like this from 1win in the sense where if you early pick the Kelvin is still like pretty decent with the rest of the team 1win is picked. I don't think Shiv is that great with VP, but they still need a frontliner, and they probably don't want to give up the Kelvin Shiv lane. So I think Shiv is going to be one of the next two picks here for VP.
Helping people's what I do.
Got the Ivy, which is interesting too, because that is something that 1win like to throw onto Flammable, right? Flammable plays like the Ivy, Sinclair. So I'm curious.
Okay, Ivy again. Is it Gun Ivy again for Zergy? I don't know if you're necessarily going to see a world where there's 7 coming through.
It's going to be Gun Ivy. There's no question. I mean, you talk with VP, you know about their logic here. They legitimately think Gun Ivy is very, very good, and they go for the Warden. Okay, so this is getting Sharik back to his old bread and butter. They don't go for the Shiv, so what you can take it to the bank now. 1win is locking in the Shiv as one of the two heroes coming in here. I would guess final picks here, Shiv plus either 7 or Infernus. And that'll do it for 1win.
I'm gonna still throw in on the Pocket.
So you need a monster hunter, huh?
I think it's just because I want it. I'm trying to manifest, guys. I'm just trying to manifest.
What is this analysis like? Dan is a deep thought. I'm expecting this very like high-end analytical point. Is like, because I want it. I really just want the Pocket. Well, I'm telling you, if you had me to guess here, I would prefer the 7. I think it's probably gonna be Infernus for 1win.
Hello, darlings.
All right, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I thought it was gonna be Calico.
Because I like another playmaker, you know. Goddamn. I'm exposed. How sick would it have been if Pocket would have come up? But either way, VP with their final pick. What are they lacking? I mean, I could see Abrams. No, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, actually.
Don't
Maybe.
you worry.
Oh, but
Okay, they get the Infernus. All right. Yeah, it's kind of interesting just looking at the comp in terms of like the front line. It feels kind of not necessarily awkward, but it's a weird feel because you've got Warden obviously and Yamato that can really, front line. Paradox is going to be obviously a little bit further back, and Holiday is going to kind of go in and out of the fights, and also Furnace is going to be playing from a bit further back, and also the Ivy is going to be close to medium range. So I guess it makes sense. I think again, I like OneWin's lineup in terms of the cohesiveness in these team fights. I feel like in the team fights they have a lot of power between the Geist, Moncrawl, Kelvin, Shiv, Calico. That is a very death ball-y type of frontline approach, and I think the Warden is definitely going to be really nice against that because you're going to get so much heal back off of the last stand, and it'd be interesting to see OneWin try to bait that out and so on and play around it. But ultimately, I'm leaning towards OneWin's comp. Where do you guys sit?
Virtus.pro were one of the adopters of Dynamo as being a counter of this death ball comp. Warden, with the recent changes, also can be extremely good as a counter to that death ball comp, considering that you're going to almost guarantee hit multiple people with that last stand. I think OneWin are kind of looking solid, especially when you have this Kelvin Shiv combo, which we're seeing, come to fruition on this left-hand lane. But something about the Wardens we've seen lately, ZP, has got me wanting to favor Virtus.pro for some reason.
Well, I think for VP, your goal here is you utilize your early to mid game where you have double playmaker between Holiday and Paradox, and you fight a lot of fights while giving Shriek tons of room on the map to work with. Also, in terms of farm, they're going to be more willing to give that farm over the Shriek because it's a Zergy on the Infernus and not, in fact, the Gun Ivy that we saw, significantly earlier in the day. So, a little bit more back to basics here for VP, but a lot of focus for me on how they fight the early to mid game and what it means for the space for Shriek to get farmed in lane. And also on the other side for, OneWin, is my fun point before I take off. I do wonder how effective the essentially solo Mo is going to be here. Mo works a lot better when there's multiple threats. I think to a degree, VP is going to be able to play around Xenon, and we'll see how it goes in APL. Early getting picked.
I see guys.
I'm gonna float something your way, Dan. And you can take it, or you can bat it away. Because I kind of did this earlier on today when we were casting together with ZP. Is there a world we see an airdropped last stand where Obikim just picks up Shark at the last stand and just runs at you in the air?
Is there a world? Yes, there are infinite timelines, and so there is probably a world in some
Let me
one of these
rephrase that.
timelines.
Are we living in that world?
I think honestly, I think that's pretty viable. Yeah, I think it obviously takes there's a little bit of setup there, but I think it's absolutely viable to see that. And I mean, with Warden coming back into the fray and given the skill on VP, it would be really cool to see that, especially going into some of these earn fights, or some of these fights where the ground you're fighting on is a bit more predictable. Certainly viable. Whether they have run it, it's one of those things where you probably don't want to just do that for the first time in a game. You probably want to have done that in some scrims. So we'll see whether that's the case with VP. But I would love to see that. I'm happy that we're seeing a lot more Ivy, honestly, in the last couple weeks.
I think watching Quake play it over an NA for melee creeps has been a thing of beauty. With what you've been able to do.
Oh, yeah.
Quake's just built different, though.
Oh, yeah. Quick is...
Got the Kool-Aid man here on cast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, the left lane, if we talk about the lane matchups, OneWin most certainly should be having this one locked down, considering that against the Paradox and the Ivy. Should be relatively easy. I think the one caveat is the stone farm going to be coming in huge when we hit that 3K mark, when the dive happens out of OneWin, because they're most certainly going to be doing for frozen shelter to catch one player in particular. But it looks like they're kind of banking on the fact that they're okay with Virtus.pro to lose out in that one lane as long as they can do decently well in the mid and to the right lane. Now, I'm curious also how the Warden and Furnace matchup will go, because that's not something we see too often.
Yeah, I mean, Warden and Furnace, that is very interesting against Mirage Calico. Obviously, Calico obviously was one of the few heroes that got their early game nerfed a little bit. However, just thinking about the last hitting and stuff, obviously Calico is still going to be pretty good on the last hitting. You got Mirage there next to you, who's still going to pump out that early lane damage. Infernus, though, certainly good at damage dealing himself with the afterburn. I mean, we'll just have to see how that one turns out. I don't have a good read on it. But in the mid here, a hugely important lane, of course. Yamato Holiday is a nasty combo, but as is Mo Geist. So this is going to be a really fun dynamic. One win in the last map. They won 2 of the 3 lanes. So we'll see if they can continue that form. Oh, what a catch.
The last one comes through on a Xenon. Gets the parry. And it looks like he actually might be able to escape. Oh. Gets around the corner in time. That's just criminal. You should be able to get away from that one. The chase is going to continue, though, with the parry onto the Guardian. And you know what? Xenon, he's out of there. Or maybe not, actually. The chase has come through the score and lands as well. The power slash is going to land across him. But somehow Xenon, the mole, is beefy, big, and alive as he gets... Oh, my God, no. The barrel of Donkey Kong of last second. And that's going to get charged through yet again.
The swap, Jason, and the timing of that was impeccable. But still, it's Overseas to get taken out on Geist. Oh, my goodness. We need to have a segment... Okay, Mo's back. But we need to have a segment of like the greatest escapes or the greatest chases, you know, in DFN. That needs to be a content piece, maybe.
Oh, man, you could you tune into the style of like those old like newscasts while they're actually like watching the chase happen live on air with the police chasing whoever it might be. That'd be kind of funny, to be honest. To go back quickly to the Infernus topic, one thing we've seen a lot today is the Infernus doesn't have a lot of impact, it seems, lately in like team fights, but one thing it kind of does give you is like the safety of someone you can feed your souls over to, that they can kind of apply that constant pressure. The flame dash, it makes it so hard for you to be caught on and to actually be dove properly. But one thing that worries me about that is when you have a warden paired in, typically you want to feed over this warden as much souls as possible. So it's kind of like you have 2 people who kind of want to accomplish the same thing, where warden isn't as necessarily as safe to do so. But I think Warden will have much more impact in these team fights. And I don't know who you pull away from this lane when you inevitably get to that point.
Yeah, more on that point in a second. We do have an engagement here on the right side, or left side of the map. And all the shelter's going to be coming on through. And a very healthy Yamato, actually. Might still be able to get the... Yep, there it is. ABL's down on the Shiv. A really good conversion coming in from Virtus.pro. Using the Frozen Shelter against them, it feels like. Is Allistic, and it's also going to find Flammable as well, so that's a fantastic start. So obviously the tower pressure is on their side, so they won't convert off of that in terms of Guardian damage, but that was a great fight for VP early on here. Overseas unable to finish off that one. But I just wanted to very quickly add on to your point, Jason, that Infernus I think gets better with this patch for a couple reasons, but I don't know if I have time to talk about it.
We'll make time eventually. Zana's going to be chased down. Zergashibo to get the close on this one. Just going to flame dash away with Shark there off to the side to secure this one. And now, with that kill coming through, it gives you room to go into what you wanted to discuss.
Some room to breathe. Why, thank you, Jason. So, yeah, so the pacing was an issue with Infernus before, because Infernus didn't come online, doesn't come online as fast as some of the early playmakers we saw dominating the meta previously. But this patch slows down the game a bit, and it also weakens those heroes in the early game. So Infernus is going to perform a bit better against them in the early, and also he's going to have more time for jungling as well with a slower pace. So it's kind of more balance, I think, that allows Infernus to get to be more activated, and maybe a few teams run different builds that will kind of come online in a good time in the game to make him a bit more effective. So at least that's my sense. It might not be a large shift in terms of power, but I think it's somewhat meaningful.
Well, we'll keep an eye on how that's going to adapt, obviously, over the course of this game. Zergy's already low in HP. He's going to have to back off, as I think that Shark left alone with the last 10 used on the right-hand side lane. While all this is happening, D-Mob is extremely low, and he'll get back towards base to heal up, but the Guardian's going to take a lot of damage in his lane. Even with the rotation of ABL, trying to punish the lane that punished him, since we saw Listic go for a very early rotate to left lane before to get the kills for the VP side in the left lane.
Ooh, and coming in from the back here, ABL on the Shiv is going to be causing some problems there. I don't know if he's going to get how much damage he's going to get out of this. Okay, Zan's going to take down D-Mov. Elsa on the map in the mid, and there's a Frozen Shadow to keep the Kelvin alive. Flammable stays up and it takes down Mikhail S. Really well done. And right now, just taking stock of the Guardians, one winner ahead on the damage.
Sergey's got some strong quads, man, to be able to do squats like that so fast. Eventually able to close down Empty Dreams. And the Guardian, I mean, potential to do some decent damage to it. Pretty much all tied in souls. Fun enough between these two. It's been a lot of action, actually. A lot of kills happening from both sides. I mean, now we're seeing Kelvin rotate over to the right-hand lane from the left-hand side. The Traveler used on top of this. Combustion going to be going off. Looking for kill to Zanya, and he's going to fall to that one. And Zergy is starting to pick up some steam here.
Ooh, trying to get out of there. And with the Flame Dash and the Leech, maybe it's possible here. But, oh, man, the damage is coming in thick and fast here onto Empty Dreams. This is unrelenting, pounding away from Sharik off of the Warden gun. And in the meantime, this mid lane, it feels like things are pretty precarious here right now for VP. They can't really afford anything to go wrong lest they will lose their tower. They are putting the pressure on OneWin's tower instead, and it's pretty low. In fact, they might be able to get it down right now. There's no response here. And so, okay, Listic takes that Guardian out. And to be honest, I don't think OneWin are too far away from, you know, equalizing against the mid Guardian of VP.
And I think, honestly, this is a perfect time to bring in ZP here, as we do see Shark fall over the right-hand side. To kind of take stock of how this game's played out, because, actually, you know what? We're going to have to hold on to that one, ZP, because we do have a fight breakout on the left-hand side as both teams kind of group up for the push onto this one, looking for the kill on Zergy, who just seems to be unstoppable, currently sitting at 9,000 souls. But the Guardian, I think, won't be along for this world any longer, as the Urn has been also picked up for OneWin, with the Guardian going down. So 1-for-1 trading Guardians overall, but OneWin are going to be down 2 players, and maybe we have a quick second here for you to come in, ZP. Because this has been definitely wild, and we've definitely seen more action and success out of Infernus in this match than we've seen previously today.
I mean, this game has been really, really close so far. VP, though, is kind of sticking to the script and being a bit ahead with the comp they have. You would expect a Holiday Paradox comp to get ahead. OneWin is still within realm that they could play it evenly, and you know, there's outs where if OneWin is able to stay even, their front line could get to a point that, you know, VP is going to be in real trouble. I'd say the biggest thing that is troubling right now for VP is the fact that Sharik hasn't really been able to find clearance to get reasonable amounts of farm in. Counterbalanced a little bit by Listic and Zergy being ahead, but okay, Frozen Shelter just being used here for the quick earn secure.
And Trade's coming on through in this fight.
Go ahead, Dan.
There's a swap as well. So VP able to capitalize despite losing the urn. They have the cleanup crew ready on call on speed dial, and they come on in. They get the Guardian conversion as well. So they're actually sitting pretty nice here. And there's a lot of pressure, I feel like, at this point for Empty Dreams to try to do something on the left side here. And I mean, it's going to be tough to take down a Walker by himself at this point in the game. It's too risky. It's going to fall back. So not much to be done here. Not much in terms of equalizing the loss there. VP come out ahead.
I feel like more times than not, we've seen Frozen Shelters when they're used to secure an earn turn-in, it ends up turning into a team losing a fight. Unless you're like fully disengaging off of that. I think Virtus.pro take complete advantage of that. They do come out with like a 3k lead, even though they did lose the earn turn-in. But like OneWin still bounced back. They get a catch on Listic, who was pushed up into the enemy jungle trying to steal away a Sinner Sacrifice. And the gap's only 3k. It's really not that crazy, with all Guardians being taken from both teams.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Is you get kind of baited with that Frozen Shelter. Like in theory, it kind of like, oh, it seems kind of nice. But then the thing with the Frozen Shelter is that, you know, if you're getting, usually you'll try to trap an opponent, isolate a kill with a Frozen Shelter, or maybe 2. And that's really good, because then you're ahead in the fight. But if you use it to instead kind of just cut off line of sight between your teammates and the opponents get better ways to isolate your team, because you're locked in with, well, just an earn turn in. So you're not really getting the fight value out of it. So it actually becomes a detriment. But with that said, the fight breaks out in mid, and VP are looking like they are in command again.
Yeah, back on the catch of the Demov another time with the lasso. Kalis did use the paradoxical swap, but I don't know if he caught on to something there in that one. And Virtus.pro with the man advantage, what can they accomplish off this? Because like pushing on Walker is going to be extremely risky. The 1v1 with Zergy down to 300 HP could be tough. He's got 2 stacks of Jin's Mark. I think he should be able to survive the burst off of this. Yeah, relatively still okay for now as the backup comes in. But the Traveler away is going to... Actually, no, he can't sit. Empty Dreams doesn't commit to it, and he sticks around the lane a little bit longer.
Yeah, and Obikin was actually like chilling back there, and I just to catch Empty Dreams. Didn't expect to see Ivy just like hiding around the corner. And with that said, a find on ABL is going to equalize things or trade it out at the very least. And And right now, one would have to hightail it over towards the left Walker. I mean, there's problems here, 3v1, 3v3, but so much damage onto the Walker, and they may even potentially get it, depending on how this fight goes. Very precarious situation here for one win on the defense, and VP really pushing the issue, getting that damage in. That Walker is going to be okay for now, but here's the pursuit off of the disengage for VP, and it's looking really nice here. So this might have backfired ever so slightly for VP.
Yeah, the delay out of one win for the re-engage, waiting for that last stand to tick away. The second it's pretty much spent, they immediately go for the catch. Able to catch out on Zergy too, trying to teleport away from this one. One win, and they take a lot of damage on their left lane Walker, but they at least come out it with 2 kills, keeping the soul difference at 3 to 2k. And I kind of respect Shark at the end there. He kind of sacrificed himself. He runs into one win to try to get them to chase him back a little bit to allow Zergy to escape. But as we saw, it didn't really work out for him either way. Like one win, I think what's happy for me about them as a team is I've called them so many weeks now very one-dimensional in terms of like the pool they go with the Pocket, Gray, Talon, Calico, Yamato is like pretty much a base 4 they always look to secure. But they've definitely shown they've got like deeper pools. And I have to give them respect where it's due because they've definitely improved a lot as a team. And I no longer can really call them one-dimensional, especially if they can somehow take this series 2-0. What? How did that catch land?
I have no idea. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, we are going to get a response here from VP. Frozen Shelter is going to be dropped as well, the dome. I'm not sure who's trapped inside the dome just yet, but oh, here's what a combo kill. That is some range on that one. Pulling Ivy out of the sky, and VP quite low now on Listic as well. And in the meantime, Zergy is just getting a free Walker for his troubles. Now, to potentially somewhat recover, one would need to drop this urn off successfully. But I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that. There are players making their way across here for VP to potentially defend this urn drop-off.
They do have Last Stand. They do have Shark in the vicinity. They're missing out on D-Mobs. The respawn has come through at Obicam. They're quickly going to rush in. And you can already see Empty Dreams. I think, honestly, with the way one wins position, they just want to get some Walker damage or Walker kills. They're not looking to actually commit the turn, and you can already see Virtus.pro realizing this, actually pushing up aggressively and trying to go for the catch. D-Mob's able to do so yet again. This time on the Overseas, the Soul Exchange had come through, but it's just not enough health for him to survive. He's going to fall, and VP continue to go on the chase. I don't know how Listic gets into the subway from where he was, but Flammable's so low on HP, gets around the corner, and eventually in towards his death. And Virtus.pro, the fantastic response, and that's in the 2 kills and potentially a mid-boss.
Yeah, that was horrible scenario for one win. Trying to defend the Walker, they lose the Walker, they get committed into very bad fights for themselves. I mean, still trying to turn the urn in, it looks like. I don't know if Xana's going to be able to pull that one off. Zergy's going to defend it, and at the same time, like you say, the mid boss is going to be getting taken down. And so, oh my goodness, this is a very bad situation for one win at the moment. This feels like the inflection point where they're going to get very far behind.
ABL's near. He's above. Looking for a steel shot. Transformation is going to come through, though. So realistically, it's not going to be happening, especially if he gets stone formed up. He'll sacrifice himself to the Virtus.pro gods. But I think you can afford to throw in 1 death there. You can't really afford to throw in too much more after that. Especially with one win hold on to the urn, they still limit the amount of losses they are going to have off the back of this rejuve being taken. They obviously need to reinforce that mid and right-hand side lane. I do worry, though. Empty Dreams hasn't really been able to get too far ahead in terms of like solo farming. He's still tied up with the rest of his team. ABL at 15k, Overseas at 16. They don't really have that one standout player, but at the same time, neither does Virtus.pro. They just kind of have everyone pretty decently farmed. And with this Walker going down, that farm is going to continue.
Took another objective.
Okay, well, the question I think becomes how well can one win sort of prevent their opposition from actually taking everything? You know, are they able to kind of just prevent a massive soul advantage here? Because that's what VP are really lined up to do. They can really run the macro here very well. Of course, there's only 1 Walker at this point to take down. And okay, not many players here for VP. It's just going to be Zergy, I think, right? And so a 3v1, this is a great spot for one win to get the urn turn in. They don't get the kill into Zergy though. But they are going to lose a Walker for this.
Maybe not. I don't know. We do see the boost being used to get back over this. Empty Dreams has his up. He's going to quickly reinforce this right-hand lane. The Walker still sitting at about 80 HP. And the reinforcements are going to be here in time. So they actually will defend Virtus.pro away, even though they have Rejuvenator. So at least get the earn turn in and don't really lose much off the back of that. Just keep the lead at a hefty 13,000 difference between the two, which is still obviously extremely rough. But you can kind of see the power of D-Mob. Very quick investment into that Veil Walker very early on, looking for those initial picks, looking to really be that playmaker that honestly has been pretty damn successful.
Well, it actually feels like OneWin are in a kind of, I mean, as good of a spot as you could hope. I mean, it could have gone a lot worse. It could have been a much bigger conversion in terms of soul advantage for VP at this point. However, the rejuve is going to be expiring eventually here, so it is the spot where VP would probably want to try to convert some of that rejuve into a fight before it expires, so they can capitalize on the better respawn times.
Where's D-Mob? I mean, with the Veil Walker, I'm trying to keep an eye on him when it comes to the mini-map. He can feed a lot of information over to his team with that stealth. And OneWin, normally the ones invading jungles looking for picks themselves are actually the ones being forced to run away, and I don't know if Xenon's going to escape this. Too many members of VP here in the vicinity. Yeah, there's not much you can do. Just buy time, if anything, and he will fall. And this is like the worst time to have it happen, considering the Urn has just spawned in. And I believe it should be an enemy side turn in here. Map has never been a strong suit for me, especially when it's live on air.
Yeah. Dude, don't you just wish that Mo could just like, why can't, I mean, he's got an ability burrow. Can't he just learn how to burrow like further down?
Right?
You know, like in Worms where you use like the
tunnel?
blowtorch and you kind of like really get in there. Yeah. I don't know.
It's a game I haven't heard about in a long time.
Well, it's going to be an aggressive earn turn in potentially here for VP, running all the way across. Positionally, Zanya is in the back. He's in a flanking spot, but he needs his teammates to really engage here as a unit so he can get that flank working. And there we go. We do get a Frozen Shoulder to kick things off here as well. And Zanya will be coming in from the back. However, all the attention is getting turned on to Zanya here. This is looking pretty precarious right now for VP, actually. He's beginning to get actually focused for once. And there is the pickup. Absolute chaos in this fight, and the disengage starts to come in from OneWin because they have multiple players that are critically low and they're getting chased down, and the kills are coming through as well for VP. And that was an effective fight. Really nice there. It was like a good attempt though, Jason, for OneWin, but doesn't pan out.
Yeah, you gotta respect the catch with the Frozen Shelter, the combo coming through. They almost had Listic bursted down. I'm actually curious if ABL doesn't have his ultimate max in time, or maybe he misused it. Because honestly, with the way the game's going, they're gonna need him to get these multiple resets off if they want to have a successful chance to get back in this match. Because the way it's going right now, Dan, honestly, it's looking like it's going to be a game 3. And I think if we bring in ZP here, he's probably going to agree, because Virtus.pro are playing like a completely different team compared to that first match.
I think the number one lesson that we're really getting at here at the extreme top end is, for me, it kind of goes back to draft. When you look at, you know, building block pieces of here, even more than things like getting a Shiv Kelvin combo, even more than things like, okay, you deny a Mo. I don't think you can play Deadlock effectively right now in a draft format when you give up you give up both Paradox and Holiday at the same time. I think it is miserable to do so. And Virtus.pro has had a huge edge in engagement the whole way through. And now you stop and think about the way that OneWin has been trying to engage. It's basically following Xenon around, hoping Xenon is able to get a good Warpstone combo. But in response, it's also been a horrifically underfarmed Mo because he's died early in a lot of these fights, just being the number one focal point of the initiation. VP knows that for these fights, so long as they don't get a clean Mo combo, they're not going to lose for the most part. And, you know, no one is overfarmed on OneWin to kind of like change the narrative or anything like that, especially at this point where, you know, there's a 30k difference between the teams. So initiation feels like it is king as competitive Deadlock has gone around. What just happened there?
That hit? How did that hit? He was around a corner.
Well, it hit, but he was also stuck in the corner. He just didn't want to leave the corner. He's like, no, I'll take this timeout.
They need to back away though, because they sent 3 players to the right side to deal with Zergy. OneWin, this is going to be an unfortunate time for them if they don't hold on to this fight. They cannot escape in time. In particular, Flammable, he's just going to be chased out, maybe trying to buy some time for his team, but time is limited as him and Overseas are both going to fall. The Shrine's going to fall thereafter, and Virtus.pro, I mean, you do have mid-boss in 30 seconds, so the first stage patron most likely going to be taken, and I would expect them to back away for the rejuve to respawn through and then come in for that final blow.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, you know, we were talking about, okay, you know, is it possible for them to make it work without the paradox? You know, it's kind of a question that we had, at least. I don't know how much that question was answered for them and whether that was like a hard decision for them or not, but that seemed to, I think you're right. I think the phrase you use, EP, is like, you know, just like the top, what was it, like top level insight or something about being on top.
At
I
the
don't know.
highest levels of competitive play was the specific phrase.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. All right. Well, well, there we go. Yeah, and so that would be an immediate thing that we're drawn to. I'd be curious to see if that's the interpretation also for one win going into the following draft. If they do lose this, which one would expect that would be the case, the rejuve here will be collected for VP. And VP haven't got a single walker down, which is a huge telltale sign 25 minutes into the game that the initiative has always been with them, and largely due, one would expect, to the Paradox and the Holiday.
Are they going to go for it here? I think we're going to see the first shot to delay the Rejuvenator. There it is. So it could be a world where we see the Rejuvenator being stolen away. Actually quickly taken down. Flammable does get the steal with a great timing of dropping the Frozen Shelter into the melee. So at least one win. They secure this objective, but at what cost will be the question. Xenon trying to run away with the help of that burrow, but just being chased down on by Virtus.pro. They're going to let this mole escape another time. There it goes. Listic secures this one. So a great little steal coming through, but I mean, you're kind of almost delaying the inevitable with the game's gone, since you weren't able to pick up any kills off of this.
Playing nice.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what they're able to do. I mean, we've got another fight here to see if they can evade the catch. Doesn't look like it. But yeah, are they able to find a way to take initiative and start putting pressure on their opponent's walkers, like to begin with? Is a big question I have. Yeah, Listic is quite dangerous. A 9k difference between the Calico and between the Yamato at this point. Oh, it is not a good look there right now for Zanya. And it's not just that. You've got the 34k Infernus, 27k, 28k Warden and Holiday. So yeah, the stat differential is pretty rough, especially for a Calico. And it feels like you don't have time to catch up to go and farm. And right now, another reason why you can't catch up is because VP again are forcing you to respond. They've picked up the urn, they are threatening the pickup, and here is the reaction from OneWid in their positioning, is to try to intercept.
I mean, they do have the Rejuvenator still on 3 players, so their lanes will shove. Virtus.pro will eventually have to respond to this as Listic just comes in from downtown with the power slash, the flying strike on top of that, looking for the chase and to finish on an empty dreams. And when Listic can pull things off like that, you just know this game is looking extremely one-sided. Oh
yeah, the crazy damage output. Mike gonna catch on to Sharik, looking pretty weak here. Yeah, there we go. Sharik will go down. And 40k difference in souls. We have seen a, what was it, 50k comeback, 52k comeback. We've seen it once, at least.
Yeah, but once out of 23 weeks.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, you're up against the Holiday Paradox. That really is a big problem. I think if you had like a Bebop on OneWin's team where you can have that opportunity to get those super clean isolations and picks off of the hook, I mean, that I feel like you're always in the game if you have a Bebop like in that world. But that's the issue here. If VP don't allow you to isolate them and get opening picks, then winning a team fight feels impossible at this point.
I mean, I figured out what OneWin's missing. Where's the well-played spin? Nope. They're going for a chase. Trying to catch up on Michaelis here. Immediately going to back off. I mean, you can see how deep they got in the enemy jungle. And as we see on the minimap, a lot of blue looking to circle in around them. I mean, I still think there technically is a world where OneWin can come back just because they have a Shiv. And that reset on the ultimate, as we saw for, was it Calc in their match up against Hydronation, where Llama Lords are able to take them down, albeit that result was reversed due to certain PayPal issues.
Let's go blue.
There's always the option for that to actually turn to make a play happen and make a comeback happen, but also being down, you know, 40-50k souls, it makes it hard to really think it could and will happen.
Yeah, certainly. Somewhat of a chase. I mean, obviously, if you're Infernus, you want to kite, but Infernus getting absolutely mobbed here. Oh my god, but look at the life leech coming in. Somehow still up, but for how long? How many players are going to be beating on the Infernus? Oh my god, Zergy takes down the Kelvin. Oh, that is not a good result there when we needed that to be somewhat clean after that catch, but that's the problem with the stat differential that we're seeing.
You brought this on yourself.
And off of that, I mean, rejuve or no? Well, there is no rejuve. So no.
They had to throw everything and the kitchen sink to take down Zergy. Like, obviously, flex stocks is a big factor to this. So you can see Virtus.pro have everything unlocked, and OneWin are still sitting on only one flex slot opened up, making it harder to itemize, making this gap even more effective for Virtus.pro. That's gonna be the stage 1 patron taken. Mid boss in 1 minute. I mean, Virtus.pro is a world where you could finish it now, but I think they want to play things a little bit safe with having Zergy on the respawn. With buffs in 25 seconds, I would imagine it's like buffs into earn, into mid boss, into earn, turn in, into finish for VP.
Yeah, I would expect so too. And they have the option to play it super safe if they want to. There is a lot of farm on the map that they could collect at any given point. So there's definitely a lot of options for them. And right now, Empty Dream's just sprinting out onto the map by himself. Here, obviously Traveler's online, but you know, you could get locked down if you're not careful. Confidence. With that said, and up on the left side, OneWin make their way across, as do VP.
Okay. Warpstone combo coming through, but still missing a lot of players on OneWin's side. Eventually they're able to join the fight. Nabil's just being focused right away here, looking for the reset, but he will be finished off. And with a clean take here for Virtus.pro, 3 kills and probably more coming. This is for sure going to be the finish out of Virtus.pro, unless somehow Zanya, Overseas, and Flammable are able to take a 3-on-6, which realistically should not be happening here. So we're dead. We're going to be going to a map 3 between VP and OneWin. And it's definitely looking more possible for OneWin to finally overcome the team who has defeated them 4 weeks in a row, going on potentially a 5th. Good signs for Virtus.pro, and I think a good sign of maturity of the team as well, finally figuring out what didn't work out for them. But they've done it before. They did it last week when they took a map. Taking 2 seems to be the trouble.
Yes, absolutely. And indeed, it's the victory there in map 2 for VP to tie us up 1-1 in this grand finals. And like you say, it's a game of adaptation, and we'll see whether the adaptations for VP will remain solid as they did in this game, or whether OneWin's adjustments, maybe following some of ZP's feedback that we heard from him, his analysis, his insights, does seem to be on track with some of the adjustments that we should expect to see from OneWin. And then I really wonder how the game is going to look, because they definitely don't look... It doesn't look like there's a big difference in terms of skill. It really does come down a lot to some of these drafts.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just bring ZP in now to talk about it. I'm thinking maybe there's a world where we see OneWin go for an earlier Yamato pick to deny that away from Virtus.pro.
Well, I think the number one thing they need to do is do an earlier pick onto either Holiday or Paradox. I think what we need here, we just need like the graphical edit of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And at the very top of your Deadlock needs right now is you need a playmaker. You have to have one of the two, because it's a double penalty. If you don't get either Holiday or Paradox, you then have to deal with the other team having both. And it's pretty difficult.
Yeah, very difficult indeed. Just like turning things on for yourself to get back into this game, because lights, camera, action. Virtus.pro strike back, and in the hands of Listic with 11 kills, 1 death, and 26 assists coming through. Is that the highest player damage? I want to ask you though, maybe ZP, because we did obviously bash on Infernus in general as kind of like a hero, not necessarily Zergy. What was your overall take of how he did in this game?
Overall in Zergy, I mean, about as well as you could expect Infernus to do. I mean, got well farmed, it was still tanky and survivable. You had that moment in the subway where, yeah, they're still up a whole lot of econ at that point, but you know, it kind of shows, you know, flashes the old Infernus of being able to, you know, live in tough situations. And, you know, again, I feel like part of the impact of Infernus right now, look at the total amount of deaths that you see here. Only 2 deaths, despite being one of the more focused on characters in the game. And, you know, I think what you're looking at your Infernus player right now is not so much the ultimate giga carry, but more so just you are consistent. You're going to be really difficult to actually die, and if the other team goes after you, you're going to lead them on a merry chase. And I think right now, for where you pick it first and what you're trying to fill roles on in the team, yeah, it's going to be towards the very end of a draft. but you still get some decent value. I think it's just about like reshifting your expectations of what an Infernus is bringing to the table and kind of, you know, using the Men in Black Neuralizer to remove the, you know, the Letha days where Letha would come in on Infernus, get 20k ahead of the game, and, you know, be an unstoppable god.
It's also fun to see that Listic had the highest kills, lowest deaths, and highest assists for the team. 26 assists, despite having 11 of the kills as well. Is pretty epic, but just a testament. I mean, I think that's also to be expected because of the comp you're up against is a heavy frontline comp. So when we're getting those power shots, the power slashes, it's going to be connecting with a lot of different players. So yeah, big performance from VP. And the interesting thing is that, you know, Yamato is such a good hero for one win as well. I wonder if Yamato might come into more contention. If that's something that could be one of the changes that we could see, in addition to maybe a priority on ensuring that you get either Holiday or Paradox. And given the way the drafts have been going, you know, maybe it could be a Paradox Yamato opening.
I think also when you look at all this here, you know, there's a lot to be said about the Shiv Kelvin lane and it being good. I think even as good as that lane can be at points, what it's giving you in the early to mid game is completely Z'd out. If you don't have at least Paradox or Holiday and you're stuck at a spot where you're going against the two of them. I also think you see in this game like some limitations of Mo, where when Mo is your only means of initiation, you can play around the Mo. There are points in this game where VP was going out of their way to just look for Mo specifically, you know, bait him into engaging and then hard focus fire thereafter. Mo's room to make plays is so much different when you have to be on the lookout not just for a Mo going in, but also for a swap or a lasso at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, to me, this game actually kind of really puts in the laser focus what is important in the draft in this particular meta of Deadlock after the most recent patch. And, you know, to me, I bring it again all the way back to the very beginning of the draft where one win decides we'll give up the Paradox. Big mistake.
Well, mistakes had been had, but let's see if they can revert those mistakes as we go into our third map in a short amount of time. We have to head to a break here to get things ready. Give, obviously, the players a chance for a quick breather to figure out what they're going to do because $1,000 is on the line. One map separates it between one win and VP. We're going to find out who's taking that home on the other side of this break. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back here at the Deadlock Fight Night number 23, presented by Intel. And our winners match has gone the full distance here into our third and final match of the series between OneWin and Virtus.pro. Still Jason Kaplan, still Dan. I just have to ask Dan, how's your Doug impression going now? Have you had time to,
I forgot
ponder
about
it,
that.
to suss it out?
I forgot to work on that. You know,
Oh, it's fine. You have time to work on it because we have to bring in our third person here on the desk. It's Josh, OW.
How are you gonna keep this up, Jason? You gotta talk in the silly voice if you want me to, man. I gotta.
I mean, no one called out
compensation.
Justin today, to be fair. So I mean, we had Alex come in for ZP, but you know what? We'll hop back to that a little bit later on. Is you know, Jake, you get to talk about that last match since you were on the sidelines for it. I mean, a very quick turnaround and a very one-sided game for VP. It felt.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting choice for OneWin to change the draft from game one. Despite winning it and looking pretty solid, they end up like prioing the Mirage Geist instead of the Paradox, and that ends up looking like it really cost them in the game. I don't know if the draft is 100% the reason why they lost, but it is surprising to me that you would pick up a win, very solid win at that, like pretty comfortable one, and then you would make a change in the draft. I'm not sure why they felt that way. I mean, it's hard to criticize the picks of Geist and Mirage, but I think it's fair to say VP punished them for it. That being said, OneWin now has the opportunity to kind of go back to the game one draft if that's what you want, if that's the way you want to play the game.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That was something I was saying at the beginning of the draft when we were talking about. It's like, well, if you usually the winning team shouldn't change anything because you introduce the possibility that you'll make a mistake, and you can always adapt as you see what the other team is doing, and it's more about you know, forcing errors from them. But if you change stuff, you might be forcing an error from yourself, and that's like not necessarily the best thing to do. But hey, it's game 3, so it's now or never.
It's game 3, and it is into the draft once again. And once again, we see Virtus.pro going to be coming out with the first pick every single time in this series. So looking towards OneWin, it's going to come down to like what's the first 2 things they're going to pick, as you kind of discussed before, Jake.
Yeah, and I wonder now, you know, do you double down on your game 2 draft? Do you still have confidence in it? I have to think the way that game went was pretty painful, and you probably wanted a little bit more playmaking and single target catch from either the Paradox or the Holiday. And for VP, I can't imagine anything changing. I mean, DMOV has had, honestly, even game 1 was looking good on the Holiday. I feel like the first pick Holiday is a very solid choice, nothing to criticize, unless OneWin want to ban it and limit that and approach that game differently. Looks like a nice little cute good boy in the background.
Yeah, it was for the dog, Dan. I don't know if you caught that
honestly, I was like, oh, he's just
at first I thought that was like a blanket on the couch, and then it moved. I was like, okay.
He's making his debut here on DFN, my boy Oliver, which is why I say dogs are better than cats for sure. We do see Sinclair ban though, so the band's sticking true to what we've seen every single time so far in the series. And we can assume Virtus.pro probably picking the Holiday and keeping things true to what we've had for, well, potentially 3 games in a row.
It makes no sense to change it, which is why they should change it.
That's why they're going to change it. Go with the Paradox.
For so long.
Yeah. Damn it. We set it up too. We set it up. It would have been so cool. Okay, so OneWin, this is the question. What do they do for their 2 picks? Obviously, what we've learned, and hopefully they've learned too, is we should see a Paradox here. And in addition to the Paradox, the first game they went with Paradox Geist, right? That they picked up the Geist in the second pick. I'm curious if that stays for them, or if they prioritize something else. Like, you know, prioritizing the Bebop even, you know, could be like a way to like overcompensate almost into we had no pick off in the previous game. Let's just shove it in there in 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think the scary thing about picking the Bebop now is you open yourself up to giving a lot of that super high prio picks over to VP, where, yeah, like that silencer was really annoying for your Yamato Calico, but you could kind of go a different direction with that type of Bebop pick. You can play the Geist. So they're going to get it here, which probably now gives it the Mirage to VP. And then I would be very surprised if they don't take a Mirage, but I am curious to see if they go with the second as a Mo. I think that was the game 1 draft. And so this might be the spot, I think, for VP to take a different tack. Like, I think Mirage is just super likely, and then I'm just very curious to see what the second pick is. I think this is where
Yamato
VP should deviate from game 1. Oh, yeah, maybe it was Mirage Yamato.
Yeah. It was always Yamato as the 3rd pick coming through, but this time it'd be coming through as number 2, and VP very heavily valuing Yamato, and I think that's perfectly fair considering, you know, again, E-Shift has been nerfed.
Yeah, the native E-Shift like users like Calico and Yamato maybe benefit a little bit from sort of having the skill on an ability cooldown. I wonder here if it will be in the Mirage as well to follow this, as it's still in the draft. I think the split pushing is a big threat. Wow, but they're going to prio the Mo Krill, so really wanting the follow-up for the lassos, denying that pick away from one win team. I like this, but it does give up Mirage Geist to one win team, which is such a potent late game potential. Your carry potential is like, I mean, one we're gonna have amazing late game scaling if they can get that duo online.
And all the split pushing that you get from the Mirage, and just yeah, I feel like
You're under my
it's
protection.
pretty nice, and that's what you want to see out of one win, having a better opening here, and also we're not having to like worry about the whole like initiation situation now.
He's a little lonely right now because it's not often I'm up this late, and he wants a little bit of attention.
He's very cute. He should get some attention. He seems like a very good boy. For the bans though, here for one win team, what do you want to take away here? It's gonna be the Ivy. Wow, that is super interesting. I mean, Ivy's been being played more, but to be hit with a ban is still surprising to me.
I think Obikim's
right.
been on it the last 2 games. Was he on it both games? Actually, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's licking me. Sorry, not you
So
guys.
they went to Kelvin ban, I think, last in the first round of bans, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that sounds right.
With Kelvin, and then okay,
I like this. I like this. It was such a problem for you in game 1. Just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Especially with Mo Krill, where I think Mo Krill doesn't really love playing against Bebop, but you're kind of like a free hook when you go for a combo. Can shut down the Holiday or the Yamato, and I think Overseas is just shown he's just too good. He's just too good at the Bebop. You just don't want to give this to him. It's going to make your early game so scary, and late game, I mean, there's all these pick-off threats. Just such an X-Factor hero. Probably one of our most banned heroes all time in DFN, just with how many teams don't want to play against the Bebop.
Interesting. I forgot the Vindicta. So Kelvin's potentially in contestation here. I don't know how much VP value it, but obviously one win has valued Kelvin so far, and Kelvin was a ban for VP, like you're saying, in place of the Bebop. So you'd imagine VP might be expecting it. I'm really curious how this 4th pick is going to determine the rest of the draft potentially for VP. Okay, so now
Shiv Kelvin still looks really good to me. Like,
there you go.
I think they have like the Yamato Shiv, double aggressive frontliner. Mo can kind of be in that group too. Holiday's grabbing people and setting them up for you, and you have crazy burst. Like I think the Kelvin actually could be super nice here, and it sort of zones out Vindicta in a lot of these fights. Paradox, Mirage, these are all heroes who want to have a bit of range when they're dealing their damage, and you could just isolate a single target going for this heavy front line, and they're going to snap it up. I think this is a nice draft so far from VP. Curious to see what one win team go for as a response here. Maybe some individual pick-off threat, but there's not much left in the pool.
Yeah, like I'm thinking Abrams Calico right now might be, because your front line kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's just got strength.
and also like in terms of playmaking, you don't have a lot. I mean, not a lot.
Whatever they
No,
throw
like
at
frontline
me.
bruisers basically. So there's the Abrams.
And the Vindicta Abrams is a great lane, like kind of just lane in a box there. No need to worry too much about placements for the other heroes. I mean, in general, I think one team do have pretty great laners overall. They should have no problem last hitting and playing that early game setup.
Okay.
However, the Shiv Kelvin lane could be a problem.
You really want to see that pocket, Dan, don't you?
Pockets.
It kind of works here, but
Pocket would be sick here.
Okay. This makes Infernus's life a little bit worse. It can be annoying here. The thing I'm worried about for Infernus though is all the hard lockdown for VP, whether it's Mo Krill, whether it's Holiday, or just Kelvin doming you. Infernus needs to kind of like get out of those scenarios and run away. And there is a point at like the ultra late game. We saw that last game where Zergy was just so farmed on the Infernus that like he could just lifesteal through the entire enemy team and just be ridiculously powerful. But I'm a little pessimistic about that with the amount of catch VP have. I think that was more of a case of one win team not having the catch to get Infernus last game. However, one win team, I mean, the scaling is ridiculous. Like their late game ceiling is out of control. VP are going to be on some kind of a clock this game, but if they can get ahead in the mid game, I don't think that's really going to matter. If you're controlling the map, if you're getting the walker tempo and taking these mid bosses, Seven and Yamato are going to have no problem getting deep into the late game, even Shiv as well. So honestly, I like this VP draft. I think it's a really nice change up from game 1. At the same time, I think one win team, if they do pretty well out of the early game, if they have a lead in the early game, this is looking rough for one. Or for
I think we're also going to see Mikhail S on the Shiv in this lineup
could
too
be
for Virtus.pro. And that, I don't know. I mean, we haven't really, I know we had it happen like a week or two ago for him. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't the most impressive things from off the top of my head. But I obviously could be wrong on this one. Yeah, it will be Michaelis back on that, which means Listic will be over on the... Maybe I just lagged out there. Dimov over on the Holiday. And then more importantly, like, how is Zanya going to do on the Abrams? I feel like it's very rough to be on Abrams when you have a Kelvin who could just dome you in. If you're not tanky enough to survive in that dome, you're gonna fall. Obviously, you're not necessarily the highest priority pick to go for that, but at the end of the day, I think Virtus.pro, or sorry, OneWin will be more than, or sorry, Virtus.pro will be more than happy to take any kill they can get.
Yeah, that's that Vindicta Abrams lane. What do you like about these lanes? What are the points of interest for you, Jake?
Well, I think it looks like the strong lanes have gotten a mismatch here, with the Abrams and Vindicta going up against the Mo, and then on the other side of the map, the Shiv Kelvin. So I think either of these lanes could be expected to be strong. But if Sharik can sustain through this Abrams damage and can be just like an immovable object, even in the face of the tethers and the Abrams pins, then this lane could be pretty nice for VP as well. The biggest thing I feel like I'm looking at the draft overall, and OneWin teams just have such a stat check draft. You know, like if you are farmed and like statistically relevant, doing big damage, okay, like these heroes can be super powerful, but the team synergy, the comboing, I mean, there's a couple in there, right? Like there's a swap into an Abrams pin and a tether into Abrams pin, but for the most part, you just have a lot of like big damage dealers that can be huge threats with farm. And what that means though is you're going to be a little bit dependent on having that farm. I think if you find yourself in a tough spot, like making comebacks, if VP don't make mistakes and don't feed you team fights, it could be really hard.
Okay, well, getting back into this game here after the pause, which of course, every time we have OneWin and Virtus.pro play, we're always going to have a pause, at least guaranteed 100% of the time. As it is an interesting position to actually find Abrams in with a shoulder charge down, not to mention his drain down. He's actually going to be killable, and Zergy picks up an early double kill. Not what you want to see if you're a OneWin fan.
Wow.
Zergy, we know how farms you can get later on, but if you give him the initial start, it's going to be pain for you. Yeah,
and you would expect this lane to be a bit better for the Vindicta Abrams too, so that's definitely not a good start. They're going to come quickly off of the rope, so they are losing good like 20% there of the Guardian's life, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I actually do think the Infernus Mirage matchup against Shiv Kelvin is super interesting because the damage output there is pretty nice and from the right ranges, so that they should be able to effectively delay the Guardian from going down. Even though I don't think with the Infernus Mirage you're going to be able to get out on your lane very well, I think they'll be able to defend it super well. And so this Abrams and Vindicta lane feels to me like to be super important in that sense, that you would expect this one to certainly be more favorable for OneWin, and we want them, as far as if you want to see their strategy really get going, it works obviously best if they get that first tower down more quickly. So we'll see if they're able to do that.
One note I do want to bring up here, and how valuable I think is maybe something you can actually weigh in on here, Dan, is the fact that like Virtus.pro, they've had a very long day. They had to play at 11 a.m. CET or CEST now, I guess now, for a OneWin Bombshell. They played 2 matches back to back. They had a break, and then they come back into this having to play a best of 1 and then to a best of with the full 3. Like, this is going to be a very tough day and a real true test to their mental fortitude. As Listic, he's pretty much been tested here, able to take down Overseas and ABL on the lane. Eventually will be finished off by the Guardian, but they get again another good start in the mid lane. But I do kind of worry and wonder for Virtus.pro, like, are they going to have the mental fortitude to hold on throughout this series? Because it's been a tough one.
So it's a really interesting one. I think there's obviously a lot of variables, but what can often happen is the team that is playing a lot, the fatigue that you acquire can actually sometimes be somewhat of a benefit. It comes at a cost, a trade-off where, man, am I talking through this action right now? I guess I am. So the trade-off is you're a little bit fatigued, so you might be more prone to maybe making some mistakes, maybe not being quite as sharp in some respects, but you're also a bit more desensitized to some of the pressures because you're just grinding out the games. And so it doesn't feel as much of a big deal as if when you come into a game fresh, it's like, oh, this is like, really feels a lot more real. But they've been going at it again and again and again constantly today, so they're a bit more desensitized in that respect. So I think there's like kind of an even trade-off that happens for most teams, and some teams even get better the more tired they are, because some of the nerves and everything else kind of goes away a bit more, and they're able to just kind of like just go for it. So we'll see how it actually turns out for them. And they're also a team, a bunch of players that are used to grinding very long hours, and they're all doing it from their bedrooms as well. So I think, you know, it's a lot easier to do that than in a LAN environment.
Yeah, to be fair, you're comparing the early start out of Virtus.pro today to OneWin, who's been playing a ton of matches in a row here, because they did have to play out, I believe, 2 best of 2s. And actually, no, they looked at 1 best of 2 in the OneWin Bombshell tournament today, if I'm not mistaken, where they lost against Thanos. So kind of a little bit of a difference between the 2 teams in terms of like fatigue, but either way, I mean, it has broken down into quite an exciting series. Virtus.pro with a fantastic bounce back in the second match, and as we go in towards the paradoxical swap coming through, Listic's just able to back away, and there's really no confirmation of a kill, no real damage being done to him off that ultimate.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see now if OneWin can start to recover a bit, because they are down 5k souls at this point. That's a pretty big deficit this early in the game, and maybe part of it is because of how this lane on the right side has been going. You see 3.2k there for Zanya on the Abrams, 3.7 for Flammable, so not having a great time. And to be honest, if you look across the other lanes too, in general, VP have the edge. So this is perhaps the best start by far that we've seen for VP, and in fact 5k souls ahead. I think Jake was saying, you know, the scaling will be wild for OneWin, so it's not super alarming that they're a bit behind, but you don't want to be so far behind that you are just going to lose the game.
A big dive again out of Listic, rotating very early on. It means that Shout Transformation and Empty Dream should be following the Combustion. Combustion won't stun up Listings. They pick up the initial kill. Going to go for the dive yet again onto Xenon. He's going to fall. And Virtus.pro come out the gate swinging. That 5k going to turn into more. They're looking for their second Guardian of the game. They're going to keep this pressure going. As even Zergy now in the mid lane flips down a Storm Cloud, but he'll be finished off for his face. That doesn't really make sense, but showing up in that lane. Not for, yeah,
wait.
Really weird.
I thought you were going to say like for his troubles or something, presence. But he just like threw face in there. I like it. I respect it. It's novel. It's unique.
I know Metro will be sad to chat his boyfriend getting killed, but either way, you can still see Zanya going back in on the charge here. Listic's able to pick up another kill. This is honestly just starting to be a big snowball here. Like Virtus.pro taking an early advantage, and they are rolling with it.
Yeah, it's this thing where it's totally fine, I think, for OneWin to be behind, but there is difference from being behind and I think maybe being this far behind, where the other team can just start steamrolling you and consistently create initiative, and where you have to react, so you don't ever like find the breathing room to recover. That's the place you don't want to get to.
Jeez, this is going from bad to worse now. I mean, Virtus.pro, we've seen him in positions like this. It's not been very often we've seen him in this position in the recent weeks, in recent times. The only way I can think of is against Paravision maybe 1 or 2 weeks back. But with the rate they're going, obviously a lot of the solely they have of 10k being 7-8 minutes in comes from a lot of his objectives. But to be fair, with the mid objective, the mid guardian potentially going down here on this next push, like OneWin are starting to fall to a very difficult point of being behind.
Jake, this is bad for OneWin.
Yeah, this game is actually on the brink of being out of control. I would say a 10k lead this early into the game is extremely dangerous territory. It was like Lasso was missed though, a little moment of reprieve for OneWin team, and this mid guardian is like kind of the last thing standing in the way of VP in complete domination, and now it comes down, fight breaking out in the mid.
Yeah, result here for OneWin is super important, but under the frozen shelter, that's obviously going to favor VP for the time being, and the pursuit coming in from Listic has been unrelenting. His Yamato play today has been incredibly good, and maybe if VP are winning, it's a shoe-in for the MVP. But looks like OneWin didn't really lose players there, but of course they lost the Guardian, and they are 3 Guardians down at the moment.
They're going to be jungle down too. You can see VP already starting to go for the invade, really limiting OneWin's ability to get back in the game. When that first urn comes up as well, I do wonder, will Virtus.pro use it or pick it up? Because it's going to be an enemy side turn-in, or they're just going to focus on still taking as much around the map as possible. If I was in their shoes, I would guess you leave the urn. You need to make sure OneWin don't pick it up though, because that could be an easy turn for them and an easy way back into the game with the recent change in the latest patch. Well, Zanya's actually been very brave for taking away the center sacrifice. He's going to be noticed now on the minimap as long as they were keeping their eye on it. At least he does have backup of 2 other players in the vicinity.
I love that they're doing that, though, because you do have... It is very scary when you're in this situation, just like Jake was saying, because if you just allow VP just play out this advantage, it will just grow. It will accelerate. It will be something that compounds. And so you have to take risks. And that is definitely a risk from Zanya, but it doesn't look like he's being punished for it just yet. Able to get out of there with some of the gambas and potentially some of those enemy jungle creeps as well. So really, really well done to get out of there alive.
Sergi, I don't know how he's actually able to dodge away from so much of this damage. There's Vindicta out of Flambo looking to actually attack him from the skies, but the Storm does move in swiftly. Flambo's down to about lower than half HP. The Urn, you can see Zanya headed into that direction and maybe go for the pickup, but he's been comboed and finished off here by Listic. And Virtus.pro are the ones to actually secure it, but you can see, look what that turn-in's going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult to actually secure this, even with the 11k lead.
So it actually might end up being kind of awesome timing there, because the lead has gone down to 9k, and so I think that was right on the margins there for the turn-in spot. So it does make it rather challenging for VP to secure it, and VP have to be careful not to waste their time. If it's something that they truly cannot do, they don't want to waste their time trying to collect this. However, they are going for it, and OneWin are going to respond.
And they're wasting multiple players' time, to be fair, as well, on the win-win side. That's the last one coming through. The Frozen Shelter can be used to try to confirm the soul or the Urn turn-in, but it hasn't been locked in just yet. Seismic's planning to come through just to help him escape, but Listic's going to be there to clean up that kill. Maybe he was able to get down Obi-Kim. The Urn's still trying to be deposited. Looks like it will go last second. The parry came in from D-Mob to save it. And Shark's able to confirm the Urn and 2 more kills on top of this. It's all going the way of Virtus.pro. 11k lead and looking to grow even further, leaving Michaelis to farm on this left lane side. Virtus.pro, I think we might be saying within the next 15 minutes here, Dan, that they have taken their title back. They got the championship belt for themselves once again to be crowned as the best team in EU.
See, we have somewhat of a lull here. Jake, you were talking about like it's very close to being out of control. Do you think we've reached that threshold just yet?
Yeah, I think the first mid boss is where we're likely to see the lead explode into something much bigger. I think until VP really blow up in a huge fight, we probably won't see that, as they don't want to necessarily risk throwing the game and forcing mid boss too early against an Abrams or an Infernus and the threats that they pose. But honestly, that fight is a pretty scary one. That starts decently well for OneWin team. It's like theoretically should be a good trade for them, but in the end, I mean, the parry from D-Mob is really clutch right there.
All right, well, we'll see if there's a recovery possible here for OneWin. Okay, Empty Dreams with some decent initial fight onto Shiv, but hey, there's more than just Shiv in there. There's actually not just one more. There was actually 4 players there. So 1v4, not really good if you are familiar with how math works. And again, another catch with the lasso, forcing the tornado out, and just the damage is so outrageous right now that that's going to end up being a kill as well off the flying strike. What a follow-up coming through from Listic. And there's that mid boss. They're going for it.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you're going to force a fight. Your lanes are far enough shoved up too. I think OneWin kind of realizes this is happening. They're going to be sending Zanya down the staircase to maybe help out. I don't really feel like there's a world they could contest this. Even actually Overseas throws in a time bomb to like, here, let me help you out. Let me get you some damage done. Trying to push them away. We do see OneWin trying to go for the steal here. The Shadow Transformation comes through. As long as you hit the timing on this, it's going to be perfect. Overseas steals it away. Virtus.pro. You better as sure as hell get the kills off the backlist, or you just threw away a massive lead.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. Is there a way for any conversions here on kills? There's one. 2 more players low. Sharik and Michaelis are very low. Is there enough damage here? Are there enough players here to finish this one off? And I love this, the way that we're able to escape here for OneWin all together. At the very least, they're going to come away with 4 Reju's still present, and obviously all the push that comes from the Reju. I got to bring you in again, Jake, here, because it feels like that could be the steal of all steals.
Yeah, it's a very big steal. I think it keeps one win in contention. I mean, if they had failed that steal, that probably the game is done right there. But I will say Zergy was not in that fight. He was taking a walker on the side lane at the same time. So Virtus.pro hedged their bets there. Even though they don't get the rejuve, they get a decent fight in the end. And unless these rejuves can be converted into kills or a lot of farm, then in the end, the advantage won't mean much for one win. And that walker isn't coming back here. So still, we'll have to see how the next few minutes play out.
Damn. You saw ABR running around for a very long time on low HP with the soul exchange up, but not able to steal enough health from Michaelis to survive with Listic there. As we saw the right lane walker go down, maybe we're going to see the mid lane walker go down for Virtus.pro as they have kind of grouped up here in the middle lane. They still have to worry about, obviously, the rejuved up minions pushing through. And ABL has respawned another time. But yeah, as Jake said, keeping one win in the game, but they're still going to be down 21,000 souls. And a rejuve is really not going to save you from that kind of soul deficit. It's just going to make you respawn in quicker if VP do get the kill. As we're about to hit the 15-minute mark, Dan, I think that's where the action is going to be taking place. It's going to be about that earn, and it's going to be about that turn-in on the enemy side of the map.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty rough. Send him with a vitality buff there on the Mirage. And we get a ping there. I'm not sure whether that was a VP ping or on the map or a one win, but yeah, 21k soul advantage. That is a third of all the souls that one win has.
Good
okay,
map.
well. All right, well, here we go. There's a catch here. This is nice. The jump pad just setting into the ceiling. Okay, a pick off. That's what we like to see there for one win, and their chances to get back into this one. And again, it does seem like this earn drop-off point is a problem. I mean, I don't know what VP will be able to do about this right now. It doesn't really seem like they're super interested in trying to go for this. But all the jungle is cleaned up though on on one win side of the map, so there's not a lot of things for them to do.
No, I mean, but still, that last fight was kind of important for them because they take down another Guardian and they get their flex slot. And that needed for their side, considering Virtus.pro already have 2 unlocked for them.
I see the detective.
I think my Italian internet is striking again, unfortunately.
Oh, it's getting me too.
Sure.
Our green walker is under attack.
Or maybe it's not me. Okay, so maybe it's not Italian internet. Maybe it's the British internet.
Ooh. Well,
I'm so
okay.
used to it being me though, so I always think it's on my side.
Well, one win finding themselves under fire here on the right side. VP going very aggressive, getting that opening kill onto Zenon. We did get some healing of the disparity in souls for a moment for one win, but with these 2 kills going to VP, good finds. That's going to be a problem for one win's attempt to come back into this one. In the meantime, Mo picking up the earn once again and threatening the drop-off. And with the rejuve out now, VP can finally push these lanes and they can finally give it a go.
Kind of ridiculous as well how much damage Zergy just did to like Xenon. That, I mean, he has an 8,000 soul lead, but he shredded him. And the thing is, there's still 4 other players around that kind of same soul threshold. It's only Empty Dreams at 17k. Like Zergy's gonna put on a clinic here as we're seeing Seismic Slam used for defensive purposes out of one win. Pros are being used to secure in the earn and lengthen that lead even further. But we still might see a fight off the back of this. The Fidox swap had come in onto Michaelis, but he's just gonna dash away and be safe.
Yeah, and I like the disengage here from VP. One of the reasons too is because they just got a lot of souls off of the urn. Some of the soul advantage they have is not realized at this point. It's kind of like stocks, you know? So they're going to fall off, and they're going to force one win into a spot where one win are going to start pushing the map. We've got that pressure here. Oh, this Walker takedown will be really nice. He's going to commit to this, but surely... Oh no, the stun is going to come in. Okay, well, we got the tornado, and he's going to be able to get it, but I don't know if escaping Listic is ever on the cards in this position. So much damage, unreasonable amounts of spirit damage, and Listic will indeed take down Zenon, but for a Walker, probably worth at this point.
I thought he was just going to travel their way, to be honest. I think he had enough HP to actually pull that one off. But yeah, gets the Walker, gets another flex slot for one win, so a pretty decent turnaround, but they're still going to be down 20,000 souls. It's not like that one Walker is necessarily going to get you back in the game, but it obviously does help quite a bit. Let's keep it within arm's reach. Look at this. You can see Dimov with the Veil Walker just waiting to pop into that Veil. and then go in for a push. Maybe just go for the push outright with the lasso. Catches out onto Flamble. That's a Vindicta going to be blown up here. Another med advantage for Virtus.pro again.
Yeah, big pick off, but actually still maintaining a somewhat of a like a deficit, like 20k, right? Roughly 20. Well, now it's 24k, but you know, a 20k difference 30 minutes into the game is not a big deal, like a massive deal. So if OneWin can keep holding on like this, it might be all right. I think one of the biggest issues right now is that mid Guardian still being up. That creates a lot of difficulty in terms of map control, in terms of information, and how you want to move around the map. It makes it awkward for OneWin.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like the 20-30k difference does not mean as much if we hit the 30-minute mark, but Virtus.pro are a team. You get the crab walk over here looking for a catch. Virtus.pro are the kind of team that if they have an advantage like this, like they're going to push it to the limit and they're going to look to close out the game. I don't see a world where they just let it stay at 30,000 souls. They're going to at least push the left lane walker. They're going to force the next reju when it spawns in 2 seconds. Not to mention getting these buffs and the urn. Like this is a Virtus.pro who's going to look for this win. Pretty much better than I'd say almost any team out there when it comes to like closing out games and knowing when they're in the lead and how to use that lead effectively.
Well, the mid boss is up, and VP probably feel confident, especially after a pick like that, to maybe just go for the mid boss. And we will see. They do have aggression on that left side walker at the moment, so keeping pressure on OneWin at the moment. Might try to secure another pick before thinking about that mid boss at this point. Really trying to force this walker down potentially. This is a big fight now breaking out here. This could be pretty important. It might be an opportunity for OneWin, but they are getting actually destroyed. Xenon going down very low, very quickly. The pick-off potential, the damage output is crazy from VP right now, and they still have everybody up. They've got their big heals from Kelvin coming in from Oberkim. There's the healing Nova going down, Walker going down, and potentially more OneWin players to follow suit.
You can't really afford to lose out on too many players here. The urn's going to be, you know, ferried over on towards the right-hand side at some point, because the mid-boss is what's on the menu here for Virtus.pro. And with Rejuve, if they're going to lock it in this time and not have it get stolen away, is exactly what they're going to need to actually go for the final plays. I think the only like rough part is they can't depend on D-Mob with his like lassos when they have to enter the base with the base guardians to be as the initial like indicator to a good fight for them. He's been doing that mostly off of catching OneWin pushed outside of their own base. Wait, they're actually going to go for the contest here. I can see a couple of players in the vicinity up. Okay, so they're above them actually. Instead, trying to push out the lane to look for the walker. I mean, it's do or die time for OneWin. At some point, they're going to have to commit to a big fight, because if they keep letting Virtus.pro get away with what they're doing, they're going to have no jungle left. They're going to have no souls left, and this lead is just continue to expand.
And just, you look at how aggressive we see Zergy being here. Oh, going down pretty low. Okay, oh, there we go. Might get taken out here. There gets burned alive by the afterburn. And I mean, it cost a lot though. The life damage done by Zergy was crazy. So the trades off of that are pretty huge. 2 players going down, and Xenon and Empty Dreams. And now with the urn making its way across, might finally see a turn in there for VP again. They've gotten every single urn this game so far.
Not so in 30 seconds. Not going to be up in time for Flamble. Frozen Shelter going to be used again to commit into the urn. And a little bit of a heal up on top of that. 3.8 thousand health Mo and Krill. Plus 280 from his combos. That is a beefy mole. And I don't think OneWin... Yeah, very chunky. I don't think OneWin have like the toxic bullets online to even deal with him. But at least they're able to finish off Ballistic. But again, the Rejuve's going to be there. He's going to respawn back in momentarily. And Virtus.pro, they're going to get the catch here on to Lady Geist.
Oh my goodness. Oh my god, it really is. Oh, just the chunkiest. It's Kit Kat to like a Kit Kat chunky. It's like that kind of like glow up. Constitution.
To me.
Okay, well this looks like VP just having fun now, just getting picks left and right around the base and looking to really crack open said base, getting those base guardians down and now giving themselves access to these shrines, which they'll start working on. And with impunity, relative impunity, it looks like 4 players up here for OneWin, but they've got to be really cautious and not staggering the deaths at this point, but still trying to in some way slow this down. I don't know if it's possible. Look at the aggression flying in off the flying strike. Ballistic takes down another one, and the base is getting dismantled.
Well, there will be at least one more respawn in with the page. but you have to imagine that it's not looking like one we're going to be able to bounce back. You talked about a 30k deficit, 30 or 30 minutes in, or 20k deficit 30 minutes in. It's a 40k deficit right now, and we're still only 24 minutes into this match as Virtus.pro has backed off. They have a lot of jungle on the left-hand side to take away at least the Sitter sacrifice to continue to power up here. And one win. I'm imagining it's going to come down to them contesting this next earn turn-in. And then that's going to do it if they can't win the fight.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. It's felt like in this whole match, I don't know, or this whole game, I'm not sure if I've seen like a good fight for one win. Like a fight that, because they've just been so far behind in terms of souls. They are 40k behind right now. That's not a good place to be. Frozen Shelter is used for the defense. We've seen it used for defense or unsecures only so far.
As we said before, one win, they're going to be committing for a fight here for this earn. At least getting Obi-Kim low here. You can see him just burning away. The Tux bullets coming out of Empty Dreams. Combustion off the back of this. But you can see the Stormcloud on top of this, just able to create so much zone control for the side of Virtus.pro. But Michaelis, he's going to fall. At least one win, able to get one initial kill, but the rest of the team so low on HP as ABL is going to go down overseas. He's probably going to be finished off here momentarily unless he's able to escape back towards his base, but he's heading over towards the VP side of this map. And Listic, well, he's unhinged. 29,000 souls, and he wants to close out these kills. He wants to close out the series as well. Only 3 players left alive for one win. And Virtus.pro might have finally broken the curse with the win against one win here.
Yeah, it felt like Empty Dreams was the only one outputting crazy damage in this fight, but just the output from Listic is godlike. And Empty Dreams is dead. He's gone. Very, very dead. Man, it's rough. 35k behind. it's so bad right now for one win
too for Listic.
Oh no,
going to be turned in. Listic's sit on 3,000 souls to spend. He's got like more spirit items than you ever possibly can hold. Pretty much bought the entire shop of spirit items.
It's rough. It's really rough. It's so, wow, the damage output is crazy. Well, if we look at the map here, the right lane is pushed for one win, so that's something, I suppose. But at the same time, they've obviously lost everything in their base, so one bad fight will convert to a victory at this point for VP. They'll take the belt again after, or how many weeks have they, like 4
weeks.
4 weeks.
This is week number 5.
It's going to take some real heroics from one win to find their way back in, and they might get caught here off the rope.
I see Holiday.
Ooh, just barely escaping, actually.
We talked earlier about, we've only seen it really one time, a team come back from a 50k soul deficit. I think that was a melee creep match back in like DFN 8 or 7 or something like that. Something ridiculous up against Llama Lords. And one win, I don't think Virtus.pro are going to let that happen here in DFN 23.
Wait,
I mean, credit to Xenon to keep that lane shoved out, at least keeping one lane shoved out. But to be honest, Virtus.pro don't really need to worry too much about that. But I think they're waiting up the mid boss as it's respawning here now.
Damn, look at that timing, Jason. Jason with the timing.
Our producer's in my ear and he's counting me down. He's like, okay, 5, 4.
Well, we had one steal from one win, so they might as well try to attempt another one. Okay, well, they'll actually find some isolated players here. There'll be more along the way, but will that first few seconds of engaged in their favor count here in this fight? It's looking pretty difficult here for Empty Dreams, getting chunked down real fast here. So much spirit damage. Oh my god, it is a death ball to be sure. A tornado of Virtus.pro players, and they're going to consume everyone in one win. And I mean, they don't even have to do mid boss. They can just run in and win now at this point. Oh, I think this is it, Jason.
This is it indeed. The final member of One Win goes down, and Virtus.pro, after 4 weeks in a row of losing out against One Win, they get the well-played, good game spam that they had to deal with every single week as One Win continued to be the best team in EU. But that championship belt, it's got to be handed off to Virtus.pro as they finally take themselves DFN 23 in the rightful place of being the best team in EU.
Yes, Very well done by VP. I mean, showing the typical kind of VP, just resiliency throughout the entire series. I think Listic, obviously, with incredible performances on the Yamato. And the Yamato, it was interesting. I felt like going to the game 3, I was curious, might we even see a ban or something, or a second pick there? And because it just seemed to be so important for VP. But hey, that didn't come through. VP were able to leverage that Yamato play out of Listic, and it worked super well. And I do feel like this is a much better patch for VP overall.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, I don't think it's necessarily like a better patch in terms of they got massive buffs. I think they got some buffs in there, but I think it's more of OneWin got hurt a lot in the patch because of the changes to Pocket and Calico. So it kind of indirectly made Virtus.pro a little bit stronger as well. I mean, they did struggle quite a bit when it came to that first map. OneWin made it look, relatively easy, but to bounce back after being down 1-0 to take the next 2 is not easy to do whatsoever for Virtus.pro. But we still have Jake here on the sidelines to break down this last match. There's a lot to talk about, honestly. I think it's Virtus.pro. It was a very one-sided game, even though it did drag out to about 25 minutes of time.
Yeah, I feel OneWin got caught into an awkward spot in the draft where they were just missing a lot of the playmakers that they have typically been able to use. And think about like what OneWin rose to prominence on in DFN was these really fast-paced drafts with a lot of catch and playmaking and, going in for early jungle ganks and snowballing the game from there, being willing to fight super early into the game. And then here they end up with a very like super greedy late game oriented draft and falling behind early by, I think they were down by 10K before 8 minutes. And that's just almost insurmountable. I mean, they made it interesting. They forced some rejuve steals. Good on OneWin for like still fighting for their outs in an incredibly difficult scenario. But I don't think there's anyone really better than VP when they have an advantage at just dotting the T's, crossing the I's, getting it done, and securing that victory.
When it comes to that victory here for Virtus.pro, Jake, who would you give your Intel player of the match over to?
Thinking about the Intel player of the match, it was close. I felt like I wanted to lean towards Dimov, but in the end, we can reveal it if it's ready. I did go with Listic. I just thought, the Yamato play was too consistent. They gave him super high draft prio this series to get him on the Yamato, and for very good reason. The performance was rock solid, able to carry the game deep into the late game. I feel like it was close between him and Dimov with the Veil Walker throughout this series. Was such an annoyance for OneWin, such a challenge for them. But on top of that, Listic was able to win some of these lanes and create some early advantages that the team was able to capitalize on. And I think that kind of put him over the edge here for the player of the match.
Yeah, I think it's really crazy how well we saw this Listic Yamato work. Incredible stuff. In so many kills and so many assists, so much damage. The chase downs were immaculate, always connecting the power slashes and just chunking down opponents consistently and always getting good timing off the dive. Like anytime a teammate would set something up, even in the moment, Listic's immediately on top of the opportunity to find the finishing blows. And we saw a lot of like maxing as well, getting like a couple kills where maybe you should just got like one. So yeah, really solid performance from Listic. And I don't know, man, if Valve are watching this, the Flying Strike, it seems pretty broken. I don't know, what do you guys think?
It's got to respect some rules of our reality. Maybe not this universe, but maybe some other ones it currently has its iteration from.
I'm kind of here for the Attack on Titan cosplay. And in the end, this is the reality of Yamato. You won't be running away from this hero. It's very unlikely. You need to be able to stand and fight her. You need to be able to silence her and nuke her down, or be able to just out damage her through the ulti resistance. And, when this hero is ahead of you and she's snowballing the game, of course, she's an absolute menace. And that is a pretty ridiculous stat line. 18, 3, and 15 for Listic in this final game. That is monstrous.
Also, was a problem too is you're going to have your best 7 performances when your team is going to be winning the early game and you're putting the pressure on the opponents. And so Zergy gets to kind of just actually farm up to his own leisure and isn't forced to have to make those decisions between having to participate with the team in a lot of these spots. And so it just really enabled Zergy to get powered up real quick. And we saw, as we can see here, the damage output and objective damage from Zergy was huge because of all the pressure that the rest of the team was able to afford him.
Well, don't forget for Zergy, he also got a double kill in lane very, very early on. Him and Shark were able to put on a clinic in their lane to really help propel him forward. But gentlemen, that's going to wrap up our EU portion of the broadcast. However, With Listic, he gets our Intel Player of the Match, but he also gets a special addition into our show. We are going to be heading to a break, but in this break, we have something we like to call Deadlock Pictionary. Listic, oh man, chat's got me on that one. Listic with the Charlie's inner Bob Ross here, along with Poshy Pop and AVG from Melee Creeps to see how well they can draw and guess what each other have drawn in Deadlock Pictionary. We'll see you soon.